Good evening. The July 21st special meeting of the Evanston City Council will come to order. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Davis?
Here.
Councilmember Rogers? Councilmember Hadakaris?
Here.
Councilmember Kelly? Councilmember Harris?
Present.
Councilmember Isles?
Here.
Councilmember Newsma?
Here.
Councilmember Sufferton will not be here, and Councilmember Burns is not here yet. Mayor Biss?
Here. We have a quorum present and are prepared to do our work for the evening. The first item on the agenda is public comment. There are almost exactly 45 people signed up for public comment, so everyone will be given 1 minute this evening. We begin, as always, with the overwhelming majority of you who signed up in person to speak in person, beginning with Paul Brereslin, who will be... That was my minute. Beginning with Paul Brereslin, who will be followed by Paula Twilling, and then Meg Welch.
The All England Summarized Proofs Contest begins. Give me a chance to pull up my file. I didn't have time to print it out. Okay, Paul Brereslin, First Ward. After presentations by my organization, the Evanston Action Coalition, you will hear others claim that Evanston can and should create affordable housing at all income levels for anyone who wants to live here, and that citywide upzoning and looser regulation of development are indispensable steps toward that goal. So far, arguments in favor of the plan have been long on moral exhortation and short on critical thinking.
I'm sorry, could you speak a little bit more into the mic?
Tonight, we will explain why affordability for everyone who wants to live in Evanston is unachievable with existing resources. You will hear why upzoning and deregulation of development will not lower housing costs, but instead accelerate gentrification that is already underway. We will present evidence-based approaches to reducing housing costs, or we try in 1 minute. Among us are people who have professionally worked to create affordable housing. We have collectively put in thousands of hours of hard work and studied competing strategies for achieving affordability. We urge you to address the evidence we offer tonight. We stand ready to furnish additional documents and data at your request. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Paula Twilling, who will be followed by Meg Welch, and then Steve Test.
The process of creating EE45 has been unfair. The city insists it began in the spring of 2024. However, it actually began in 2020 when Joining Forces hired the newly created company, ZoneCo, to test out the, quote, new equitable zoning methodology it was developing, unquote, to study Evanston's zoning code. I am quoting from their blog written on July 26, 2022. It goes on to say they began their own engagement with 8 organizations that were paid for their participation, and these groups would work with them to prepare recommendations on zoning that the city, quote, has agreed will feed into the upcoming comprehensive plan and strategic planning processes, as well as into a future overhaul of the zoning code, unquote. Therefore, we have an organization, Joining Forces Connections, with an inside track. Nobody likes insider trading, and nobody likes insider government influence. No other groups had this kind of access. This is unfair and undemocratic.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Meg Welch, who maybe is not here.
Stuck somewhere.
Who will be followed.
Steve Test, 1135.
The next speaker is Steve Test, who will be followed by Zafiro Papastrakos, and then Kira Kelly.
You're adding this wording in various forms in 6 places. Increase housing supply and housing choices for all income levels in all neighborhoods. Sounds lovely until you scrutinize it for 5 seconds. What it is code for upzone the city everywhere. This is only good for the developers and the ambitious politicians they feed. Looking at you, Mayor. Increase housing supply. The plan relies completely on market rate housing, which because of demand will never be cheap enough to call affordable. In all neighborhoods, how are minimum wage workers supposed to live in neighborhoods of $1 million homes? Who's going to pay? On the other hand, are you calling for neighborhoods of modest, affordable single-family homes to be replaced with $1 million mansions for the wealthy? That's what this plan is going to do. All income levels, upper middle income to high net worth people have all the housing they need. Low to middle income households are the ones who need affordable housing, and this plan does nothing to produce the housing they need. Until the plan confronts what really needs to be done to produce affordable housing, land trusts, public-private partnerships, and any other creative approaches that remove the desired affordable housing from the market rate real estate economy, a vote for these additions is evidence you don't really care about realistic solutions to produce affordable housing.
I'm sorry, I just have to interrupt. This is, we're now expected to vote tonight on the future of our city, elements that will go into the comprehensive plan. I think 1 minute just feels, I'm sorry, just really unreasonable to ask our residents. I wanted to say it early on in case.
Councilmember Kelly, as is always the case, as is enumerated in our rules, the council can make any change to the rules that they like. As you know, there's a trade-off between giving people more time and allowing the whole thing to happen compactly so that everyone who signed up and showed up has the ability to speak. And as always, I'll follow the will of the council. If you would like to make a motion, you're welcome to do so.
I just think given the context.
If you'd like to make a motion, you're welcome.
I just wanted to explain
why don't you just
why.
make a motion?
Why don't you
and then we
just
can
let
have
me
vote on
finish
it.
talking, Mayor Biss?
Because I would like to get to the public comment so we can hear
So
from
I would
the
just like to say,
residents.
given the context that we're talking about a comprehensive plan in the future of our city, I think we should make an exception. And I'd like to move that we allow 1.5 minutes for our residents this evening.
I'll second.
Councilmember Kelly moves that each speaker be given 1.5 minutes this evening. Councilmember Rogers seconds. The clerk is out of the room, and so I'll take the roll.
Can we have discussion or not?
Councilmember Harris.
So I will vote yes, but I want to be very transparent that I will be leaving at 8:45. I have a funeral in Milwaukee, so I will be leaving this dais at 8:45. So that, again, has a trade-off on whether I will hear all of the comments or participate in the discussion. So I want to be transparent about that. Thank you.
So the motion is to give every speaker this evening 1.5 minutes. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hedekadis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma. With 7 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and everyone will be given 1.5 minutes for the rest of the evening. We now continue with Zafira Papastrakos, who will be followed by Kira Kelly, and then Linda Damashek. If Zafira Papastrakos is not here, we'll continue with Kira Kelly, who will be followed by Linda Damashek, and then Sheila Sullivan. If Kira Kelly is not here, we'll continue with Linda Damashek, who will be followed by Sheila Sullivan, and then Jenny Washburn.
Hello, Linda Damashek. I'm talking about middle housing. Evanston already has the most economically diverse housing stock outside of Chicago, with a variety of different housing types within 4 to 5 blocks in all Evanston neighborhoods. More middle housing units can easily be achieved by infill projects, and there's absolutely no need for citywide upside zoning. The need for that is very disingenuous. The trickle-down housing policy that's currently being promoted nationwide is an unusual alliance of the real estate industry, politicians backed by developer money, and pro-development groups for a variety of reasons, some including contributions. As with Reagan trickle-down economics, studies overwhelmingly show that these policies benefit the wealthy and powerful, fuel economic inequality, divert public resources into private hands. The trickle-down housing proposal, also called filtering, have shown to be a fallacy. They call it the filtering fallacy in California. You can Google it. There's a lot of written information you can read, lots of studies. I have. The market is flooded with luxury housing, and there's little evidence that the promised benefits ever reach the low and moderate income families. Really, pay attention to this, people. This is very important. A report from a housing advocacy division of an AIDS foundation found that the trickle-down housing policy has fueled gentrification, displacement, evictions, economic inequality, and is masking a political project deregulating land use to maximize developer profits.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's
The
so
next
much more to
speaker
say.
is Sheila Sullivan, who will be followed by Jenny Washburn and then Michelle Klebec.
Good evening. This is a very relevant statement by Dr. Svenja Goodell when she was chief economist at Zillow, and this should be of great concern to everyone. She stated that very high demand at the low end of the market is being met with more supply at the high end of the market. The imbalance will contribute to growing affordability concerns. Simply put, not building enough supply at the bottom and middle of the rental market to meet demands will increase competition between new renters and existing renters shut out of home ownership. The draft comprehensive plan and the amendments being considered today will do the very thing she's warning against. The comprehensive plan has no provisions for building housing supply at the bottom and the middle of the rental market, which would provide for housing affordability. The expensive market rate housing that the plan promotes will be counterproductive to affordability at the bottom of the rental market and will shut people out of home ownership in Evanston. We can provide affordable housing in Evanston to support those who live and work here without diluting our population with privileged, wealthy Chicagoans and suburbanites who can afford these luxury units that now dominate all construction going on now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jenny Washburn, who will be followed by Michelle Klebec and then John Foley.
Let's see if I can do this in a minute 30. I feel so seen and heard. All right. Let's cut through the spin. You're going to hear from Connections for the Homeless and Joining Forces tonight. They will utilize yes and framing, which might sound collaborative, but it's being used to bulldoze over legitimate community concerns. Yes, people are right to worry about unchecked development, and no, the current process is not giving us the tools, transparency, or trust we need to shape it. You'll be told the comprehensive plan is just a framework, not a zoning map, but frameworks shape zoning maps. They set priorities, they dictate outcomes, and they absolutely matter. If you wait until rezoning to start listening, it's already too late. You'll be told developers will build within the guardrails we set, but those guardrails are being drafted right now largely behind closed doors and with vague promises of future public input. If this is the community-driven plan, where is the accountability? Where is the public control over what gets built and where? You'll be told delaying is not neutral, but neither is steamrolling community concerns. Rushing a flawed plan isn't progress, it's political theater. And let's be clear, the status quo isn't just exclusionary because of zoning. It's exclusionary because of top-down decision-making that ignores residents unless they are rubber stamping the plan. We agree the city needs to grow, but growth without democratic process isn't equity, it's exploitation. If we want a city that truly works for everyone, we need planning that is honest, rigorous, and responsive, not scripted narratives trying to dress up predetermined outcomes. So no, we won't stay tuned as they'll ask us to do. We'll stay here and we'll tell the truth because Evanston deserves better than this.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Michelle Klebec, who will be followed by John Foley and then Jeff Bini.
Michelle Klebec, Ward 1. Last week at the NU committee meeting, we discussed the removal of the T1 and T2 transition zones, buffers that are currently protecting residential neighborhoods west of Sheridan Road from the scale and intensity of university development. Under the draft, these areas would become U1, erasing the buffer and opening the door to larger, more disruptive institutional uses directly next to homes. At Tuesday's meeting, there was unanimous support for unanimous agreement between all parties that maintaining the T1 buffer is essential to Northwestern being a good neighbor. I understood that this would be added to the comprehensive plan, but I don't see it in the current packet. In the interest of transparency and trust, I asked that the council amendments and comments be made publicly available on the Envision Evanston website. With regards to today's agenda, I understand the phrase preserve and increase Evanston's diverse housing options is up for discussion. I encourage you to advocate using this language consistently throughout the plan. This language was put forth by the Land Use Commission and represents a thoughtful compromise between community members and special interest groups. Consistent language is essential for clarity. Last, Carl from the Preservation Commission could not be here today to speak, but he has asked that preservation chapter not be pared down or edited. It was written in such a way that those policies align with other city policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is John Foley, who will be followed by Jeff Bini and then Bonnie Wilson.
Good evening. John Foley, 35-year resident of Evanston. There is so much to disagree with regarding the proposed Envision Evanston changes that the choices are either to start over or don't bother with Envision Evanston. For examples, though there are many to consider, population projections referenced on page 29 of the agenda are grounded in fantasy. In 1950, the Chicago population was 3.6 million people. It is now 2.75 million people. Evanston in 1950 had a population of 73,600 people, is now 79,700 people. Our population has grown by 8% over 75 years. And do we really believe the population of Evanston will grow between 6 and 49% in 20 years when the population of Chicago and Illinois and family sizes are shrinking? I couldn't see the definition of diverse housing types reading through this. Affordable and attainable. If Evanston wants to move to Hanover Park, housing there is affordable and attainable because Hanover Park doesn't have the majesty of Lake Michigan, but does have a thriving business community. If we continue to allow for the mismanagement of District 65, which is outside your purview, though referenced on page 21, Evanston will become affordable and attainable because parents will not accept poor-performing schools. There's reference to expansion of transit lines. Outside of buses being full, taking students to and from ETHS, buses are empty. Anyone can see that. We need to right-size the buses to reflect the actual ridership, which is incredibly low. This version is a recipe to destroy Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jeff Bini, who will be followed by Bonnie Wilson and then Jackie Davidoff.
I guess I missed my time.
We'll add you back in, but I want to keep the order just so that people are coming up as they're being announced.
Okay.
That's fine. Great. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Jeff Bini, 2nd Ward. In your own surveys and ward meetings, you've heard the majority of that residents disagree with the blind optimism that density will solve everything. They bemoan the lack of data, of proof, and of justification throughout this document. The string of residents coming forward from the community, bringing objections, questions, examples, data, suggestions, and ideas attest to this. And it's interesting that desired outcomes are not so much in question, aside from density perhaps, but only how to achieve them. Now, you've been in a great hurry to move this process along, and resident input is rarely, if ever, affirmed or acknowledged, much less appreciated, only tolerated. But I urge you tonight to listen, to pay attention, and to heed. You have to make judgment calls, and those can be difficult, but please listen to residents. You not listening to us got us where we are tonight. The previous council, including a number of you, initiated and agreed to design the comprehensive plan and zoning changes simultaneously against expert advice and against every recommended best practice. But you convinced yourselves that you knew better. You hired the wrong consulting firm and wasted $750,000 and countless hours of staff and resident time. So please consider seriously, honestly, and openly what information has been sent to you and what you are hearing tonight. Residents have researched and submitted it because they care. So use what they submit and what you're hearing to create a better plan. Remember, regardless of what you think and envision, you represent constituents, your knowledge and experience comes into play, but in every instance, the tie should always go to residents and what they want.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to submit also 3 documents here that show you some of the recent gentrification. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Bonnie Wilson, who will be followed by Jackie Davidoff and then Kira Kelly.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bonnie Wilson from the 1st Ward. It's encouraging to see the city place housing at the forefront of its comprehensive planning efforts, particularly the focus on modernizing and streamlining the development process. Too often, red tape, bureaucracy, and costly complex procedures make it difficult for any housing to move forward. As an Evanston resident and practicing real estate agent and on the Joining Forces Committee, I especially appreciate Evanston's commitment to expanding housing variety. A one-size-fits-all approach doesn't reflect the diverse needs of our community, promoting zoning reform in areas where it may make the most sense is something to promote. As the city continues this important work, I encourage thoughtful consideration around affordability mandates While well-intentioned, such policies can sometimes produce unintended consequences, which ultimately bring about housing instability and drive up costs that are ultimately passed on to homeowners and renters. I hope the city will continue to foster strong public-private partnership and encourage stakeholders throughout the process to ensure thoughtful, effective outcomes that help our city accomplish our goals while balancing the needs of all of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jackie Davidoff, who will be followed by Kira Kelly and then Robert Keading.
Hi, I'm Jackie Davidoff in the 7th Ward. I'm here to speak about having and ensuring and clarifying and specifying and holding us accountable for ensuring that our housing is affordable to people at all income levels, all races, all throughout Evanston. I moved here 23 years ago with my husband to raise our family because of Evanston's values and the people. And I'm concerned that the plan does not go far enough in articulating that housing that is affordable throughout Evanston is essential, and we're at a choice point and a sense of urgency if we don't make this happen in terms of losing residents, people who've been here for generations. Also, I appreciate that there's a statement about the inequities and historic segregation in Evanston that's led us to here. I think we need to have really clear tie between the situation that we're in and have been and what the outcomes of the plan are, both for housing and tree canopy and food that's healthy for all. So I want to be sure that we're tying again, that there's a through line between the situation that we're in and then what the plan intends to do. And I think it's really important to be specific and to make commitments that we're accountable to make sure that all residents have a place in Evanston and can live here no matter what their income is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Kira Kelly, who will be followed by Robert Keading and then Rodney Dawkins.
With the reduced amount of public comment time, I thought it best simply to list recent and actual market rate construction in Evanston, including multifamily duplexes and houses, townhouses, the type of housing that YIMBY lobbying groups and Mayor Biss advocate for, to illustrate that developers are not and will not build housing that is, quote, affordable to all. Deregulating our zoning code is simply, maybe inadvertently, a pro-gentrification agenda that will incentivize developers to build ever more luxury and remove middle and affordable housing. Here's the reality. 5th Ward, 2106 to 2108 Darrow Street, $1.35 million duplexes are currently being constructed next door to $250,000 houses in the 5th Ward. The developer says the area is coming along, developing nicely, and more houses soon. 3200 block of Central, I believe very close to the mayor. 11 luxury townhouses coming soon, priced at $1.35 million. These are not townhouses for nurses and teachers, or unless very rich ones. 9th Ward, $125,000 house demolished, replaced by a $919,000 house. 4th Ward, 1100 block of Elmwood, $450,000 house demolished into $1.25 million duplexes. 7th Ward, $525,000 house demolished to build two $1.6 million duplexes. 3rd Ward, $390,000 house demolished for $930,000 duplexes. So we have shown you what the market is actually building. I challenge Connections for the Homeless and other YIMBYs to show us market rate construction that's actually affordable housing
Thank you
for
very
all.
much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Robert Keading, who will be followed by Rodney Dawkins and then Brenda Wilson.
To meet our progressive commitments on climate, transportation, housing, and equity in the coming 20 years, we need to embrace changes such as smaller minimum lot sizes, increased mixed use, missing middle and transit-oriented development, removing parking mandates near rail stations, and investing in bike, pedestrian, and transit infrastructure to wean us off of car dependency. These are best practices in urban planning today, build upon the existing characteristics and urban form of our community, and are being implemented or under consideration by hundreds of other forward-thinking municipalities across the country. I look forward to Evanston joining them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Rodney Dawkins, who will be followed by Brenda Wilson and then Kim Perut.
Good evening. My name is Rodney, and I'm a former resident in Evanston and now part of Connections for the Homeless Participant Advisory Board. When I was ready for stable housing, I wanted to stay in Evanston, but I couldn't afford to. There just weren't enough affordable or diverse options. We need a comprehensive plan that creates more housing at more price points and in more forms so everyone, not just the wealthy, can live here. Please make affordability and the housing supply a top priority for our city's future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Brenda Wilson, who will be followed by Kim Perut and then Priscilla Giles.
Wait a minute. Good evening, Mayor Beth and council members. I'm speaking on behalf of the Foster Senior Club. As longtime residents and contributors to Evanston, we're deeply concerned that the rising cost of living is pushing us and others like us out of the city we've built. The Envision Evanston 2045 plan must do more to meet the real needs of seniors, working families, and low-income residents. We urge you to include enforceable commitments to deeply affordable housing, rent protections, accessible senior housing, and better access to economic opportunities. Let's make sure Evanston remains a city where people of all ages and incomes can live and thrive with dignity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Kim Perut, who will be followed by Priscilla Giles and then Roger Williams.
Good evening. Yes, I'm Kim Perut. I've lived in Evanston for 40 years in 5 different places and 4 different wards. I currently live in the 3rd ward. It's great to live and raise a family in this beautiful, diverse community made up of so many different kinds of people. I'm worried, though, that it's getting harder and harder for many to be able to continue to live here. I'm here tonight to advocate for more affordable housing in Evanston. Specifically, I encourage you to incorporate the broad exclusive language in Option 1 in Section H2.1 of the Comprehensive Plan, which says, adapt and increase Evanston's diverse housing choices by allowing multi-dwelling housing by right in residential districts and a range of higher density housing options in mixed use and downtown districts. Evanston desperately needs more low and middle income housing. I have 5 kids, all in their 30s now, who grew up and went to school here. I am sad to see how few of their peers are able to afford to live here now, let alone to buy a place. I'm a member of Connections for the Homeless, and our goal, Connections' goal, is to end homelessness one person at a time. They're doing an amazing job. It's been encouraging to see the city step up and provide greater support to help with the efforts in the past few years. But the task just gets harder and harder, as Rodney Dawkins just said. We need more affordable housing. We need to get beyond the negativity. We need to say yes to duplexes and think outside the box. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Priscilla Giles, who will be followed by Roger Williams and then Corey King.
I'm Priscilla Giles, 5th Ward. We are at war. As poor and black and brown people, we're the victims of the rich and greedy. We were welcome guests when our labor was free or almost free, but we made the mistake of multiplying, and at first this was welcome as it increased the labor force. But we outstayed our welcome, and fear set in, fear that we could become stronger, united, and take jobs that at that time were unwanted. We were no longer wanted, but yet we were ordered to produce more with taxes, with less jobs, and fewer hours on the few remaining jobs. Then came the plagues, high rents, high taxes, replacing garbage cans for which residents were required to lease, fines for not repairing and or maintaining homes in a timely manner. Fines for making money on the side by babysitting in our homes, selling dinners, making our kitchens, selling dinners from our kitchens, renting rooms, living in basements which had been suitable before for years, taking people on errands for a small charge, and in general operating cottage industries. Lynching became outdated. There is a new lynching now called Project 25 or Envision Evanston, really 1920 when Housing Project 2025 began with new zoning. How can we say we are not at war? It is a new civil war, or perhaps just an unfinished one with more combatants. And this time, there are no winners, only those without jobs, power, or clout.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Roger Williams, who will be followed by Corey King, and then Shereim Chavanz.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roger Williams, and I'm a realtor here in Evanston. And I'm in favor of a comprehensive plan that prioritizes affordable housing for all income levels and a revised inclusive housing ordinance. There seems to be some confusion among many people exactly what affordable means, housing means. According to HUD, affordable housing is in monthly terms generally means housing where the occupant spends no more than 30% of their gross monthly income in housing costs, including utilities. At the end of June in Evanston, the average sale price of a single-family detached home was $900,000. If you put 20% down or $180,000, your mortgage payment would be $720,000. At 6.75 interest, your monthly payment would be roughly $4,700 per month minus tax and insurance. According to HUD standards, this household would need to earn over $15,000 per month for this to be affordable. During the same period, the average price of a single-family attached home, i.e. multifamily, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, was $370,000. If you put 20% down, $74,000, your mortgage amount would be to $296,000. At 6.75% interest, your monthly payment minus property taxes and HOA fees will be $1,920 per month. According to HUD, this household would need to earn $6,400 a month for this house to be affordable. Clearly, Evanston needs more of the second type, single-family attached multifamily housing. We need more multifamily housing where price points as well as income level requirements are lower. However, this is not enough. The inclusive housing ordinance should be modified to provide affordable housing for moderate income home buyers, teachers, police officers, and also provide affordable housing for low-income renter. For all people who speak about market rate, there's something called inclusionary housing ordinance.
Thank you very much.
Sub-market rates.
The next speaker is Corey King, who will be followed by Shereim Chavanz, and then Phipe Largeon.
Hi, all. Good evening. It was great to see in the opening section of the housing section that the wording there was recommended for deletion. The use of words like maintaining and keeping things the same regarding affordable housing is problematic, to say the least, for a document like this, and I'm glad the council recognized that. Whatever your decisions tonight, I encourage the council to continue that trend in your discussions and provide the clarity needed in this important document, specifically as it relates to guiding our upcoming important zoning changes that this community needs. The first revision in H2.1 is an example of that type of clarity. Removing ambiguous, conflicting language and setting the framework for a real conversation in the upcoming zoning process is critical. And I encourage the council to think with ambition about the opportunities this comprehensive plan could provide Evanston if the direction is stated clearly. And I just lastly want to make one final point on timing and process. To those who are yet again seeking to delay this process, this time to allow the strategic housing plan to be finalized, you have it backwards. The comprehensive plan should be the guiding document that drives our housing plan, our transit plan, our environmental plan, etc. It is by definition our comprehensive planning document from which all of our planning is derived. Please finish this plan and give it to the community for real direction for our future.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Shereim Chavanz, who will be followed by Phipe Largeon, and then Mary Beth Roth.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Shereim Chavanz. I'm the Associate Director of Advocacy with Connections for the Homeless. I will say that all the mentioned multi-million-dollar developments are being proposed under the current zoning policies, which is exactly why we need zoning reform. Okay. Last year, we served about 3,500 Evanstonians, providing emergency shelter, permanent housing, and wraparound support services. Their voices are often left out of these rooms, even though they're one of the most impacted groups by your housing decisions. Let's also remember who else isn't here tonight. People working 2 jobs or caring for loved ones. That their absence shouldn't silence their needs. We must listen to the data, the engagement summaries, and to the people on the ground. Housing affordability shapes everything. That's school enrollment, equity, and generational stability. Make space for seniors to downsize affordably. Allow younger families homes to grow into. This is the circle of life, and Evanston's future depends on you embracing it with policies that are clear and inclusive. Let's make sure the language in this plan sets a real vision for the next 20 years, one that doesn't preserve exclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Phipe Largeon, who will be followed by Mary Beth Roth, and then Meg Welch.
Good evening, City Council members, Mayor Beth. Thank you. My name is Phipe Largeon. I'm the State Director for AARP Illinois. But more importantly, I'm a longtime Evanstonian. My family lived on Fowler Avenue near the high school, and then the 1800 block of Asbury. I went to Dewey Elementary School, Nichols, and a proud graduate of Evanston Township High School in 1886. The passion in the room, I'm not surprised at. So, and kudos for the city and everyone here for taking on such an important issue. You've got my written comments, so I'll be quick and to the point. Affordability has got to be central to anything that we're going to do in Evanston around housing. Nearly half of Evanston households earn less than $75,000 a year, so it's critical that Evanston take measures to raise the affordable housing stock. We urge also Evanston to support the missing middle housing. So much of the zoning is for residential zone for single-family homes, and that the middle missing housing is what's really key. Duplexes, fourplexes, cottage courts offer cost-effective, neighborhood-friendly solutions. Anti-displacement and equity is also critical to the plan. Institutional partnerships. Evanston Hospital, Northwestern, there are lots of examples of these institutional partnerships that are a success, and we'd urge you to
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Mary Beth Roth, who will be followed by Meg Welch, and then Judith Treadway.
Good evening. Mary Beth Roth, 2nd Ward. Well, here we are again. Look around at who, as usual, is at this kind of meeting. Most of us are over 65. Most of us are white. Now think about who's not here. Our neighbors working 2 or 3 jobs just to keep a roof over their head. The ones who need affordable housing the most. But they cannot afford the time or the cost to be at this meeting. As a result, they are unheard. Many of you speaking against affordable housing are architects, developers, rental property managers with the expertise we need right now to create more good affordable housing types for all people in Evanston, especially for those of middle and low income. Instead of battling each other from across the aisle, why aren't we trying to figure out together how we can make affordability happen? The only thing standing in our way is our mutual lack of willingness to collaborate. I am deeply distressed that this issue has divided us. Where are the moderate voices? Let's not take our cue from a polarized national politics. Let's not hesitate to express a more moderate view to those on our side. Council members, don't make decisions that only reflect those like me who can afford to show up at meetings like this. Are you skilled enough to bring us together to make housing that's affordable for Evanstonians of all income levels? Right now, moderation isn't weakness, It's courage.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Meg Welch, who will be followed by Judith Treadway and then Olivia Olsen.
Meg Welch, 4th Ward. The heartfelt pleas for affordability are shared. Sometimes desperation and passion will cause taking the first handout or solution offered that may not be reliable or effective. Blanket upzoning and increased density as necessary preconditions for affordable housing have become a dogma in some Evanston circles. It is said all experts agree. This is not true. No specifics on how increasing housing choices across all income levels will achieve affordable housing have been given. I ask all those who have accepted that dogma to require evidence, facts for your decision making, although some of you may feel political loyalty to vote for blanket upzoning. Everyone knows this is what Mayor Biss wants. I am sending you an article from a peer-reviewed urban planning journal that shows that blanket upzoning resulted in little but increased property values in a local area studied, very similar to Evanston. In addition, you're being sent an article from a California organization called Housing is a Human Right, and they argue that they show that upzoning did not result in trickle-down affordability, but it resulted in gentrification, increased rents, and home prices. There is no consensus among housing experts that this is the route to affordability.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Judith Treadway, who will be followed by Olivia Olsen and then Kat Velma.
You all moved our city council to this place where nobody can get to unless they got a sticker. And I would request that you all change that 2-hour limit because I got a ticket for being with my doctor over 2 hours and they gave me a ticket. And I gave it to our care team and I haven't heard back from them yet. I'm Judith Treadway. You all know me. I'm an advocate for this community, have always been, but was not able to buy in Evanston because we could not afford a house to accommodate our medical conditions and ability to have a home that was on a single level. My concern with this housing issue is that we can no longer have the exclusivity of a R1 residential zoning. We must open up the zoning to be able to have housing built in areas that were traditionally R1. We need to, and in order for us to have more housing, we got to have more people. We are losing our families. We have empty nesters. We have fewer children coming to our community with parents looking for decent housing for them to attend our schools. The traditional idea of Evanston since I was a little girl was if you wanted to go to a good school, you had to go to Evanston because they had the best schools in the United States. So now with us losing our families, our seniors becoming empty nesters like me and my husband, we have a challenge to be able to support younger people moving to Evanston, and that was one of the things we wanted to do to increase housing. And also housing for people who are elderly and disabled. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Olivia Olsen, who will be followed by Kat Velma and then Scott Roberts.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Olivia Olsen. I'm a 7th Ward resident and member of the ETHS class of 2025 and a summer intern for Evanston Cradle to Career. I've lived in Evanston since 2007, which is also the year I was born. This plan is called Envision Evanston 2045. There are many people in this room who will likely have passed or be in retirement by the time we reach 2045. And I have noticed that this has been the case at the majority of community meetings around this issue, and 58% of the responses from the first survey were by people who will be 65 years or older in 2045. I'll be leaving Evanston to attend college in less than a month, and I hope that by the time I return and I'm looking to find housing, I will be able to move back here because I truly do love this community. Please work to make this possible and keep the needs of young people in the front of your mind in all of your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Kat Fielma, who will be followed by Scott Roberts and then Sarah Peterson.
Kat is on her way.
All right. In that case, the next speaker is Scott Roberts, who will be followed by Sarah Peterson and then Dan Lev.
Thank you. Scott Roberts, 3rd Ward, 24-year resident. I want to thank the staff for all the work on this new version of all the suggestions. It's really easy to examine and give feedback. I'm just here to give feedback on a few of the items, on especially some of the options. First of all, in the consent agenda, which hopefully I think will go without controversy, item 7G about increasing bike lane visibility and changes to that, I think is crucially important. And then in the housing, the items that I think the council should support are in 10B, option 3, increase housing supply and housing choices at all income levels. I think that everybody agreed on that at the last city council meeting. 10E, the most important, is option 1, adapt and increase Evanston's diverse housing choices by allowing multi-dwelling housing by right in residential districts and a range of higher density housing options in mixed use and downtown districts. Item 10G, I think you should vote against deleting that line. We do need to, I think, getting pre-approved forms for duplexes, triplexes, cottages, and these will help developers accelerate our production. And also it'll allow us to maintain a level of quality. And that's good enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Sarah Peterson, who will be followed by Dan Lev, and then Gwendolyn Braxton.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Peterson, a homeowner in the 6th Ward and the interim executive director of Open Communities, an Evanston nonprofit that fights housing discrimination and helps neighbors keep their homes to prevent homelessness in our community and reach their dreams of becoming new homeowners. The housing affordability crisis is stark, real, and growing. A few years ago in northern Cook County, over a third of homeowners and over half of renters were cost burdened, spending over a third of their income on housing costs and leaving little left over for basic needs. Today, these rates are rising at a dangerous pace. Due to the realities of supply and demand, without adding new housing options in Evanston, we risk losing the economic, racial, cultural, and lifespan diversity that make Evanston so special. We're losing attainable housing options at all price points today. That's already happening without zoning reform. Zoning reform isn't causing this. There's been some talk of research, and the majority of academic research is quite clear. A 22 study finds that upzoning in Minneapolis, Chicago, and other cities indeed led to an increase in housing. Once completed, new developments had the impact of slowing rent nearby by 5 to 7%. This study also concluded that new buildings increase low-income movement into municipalities, fostering integrated, economically diverse neighborhoods. I could go on, but I don't have time. Fortunately, at so many of these meetings discussing zoning reform, I've heard neighbors on all sides of this issue say they want affordable housing. Let's be bold and write that strongly into our comprehensive plan. Housing is a human right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Dan Lev, who will be followed by Gwendolyn Braxton and then Brian Hansen.
Good evening. Specifically about the plan recommendations in the agenda, I wanted to speak about item 10E on page 91. So that was preserving and increasing Evanston's diverse housing choices. I also think that option 1 is the best choice, to adapt and increase Evanston's diverse housing choices by allowing multi-dwelling housing by right in residential districts and a range of higher density housing options in mixed use and downtown districts. Additionally, I want to thank the City Council and all of the plan commissions that have spent so much time and effort hearing all of this testimony over the past 1.5 to 2 years. I do not think this process has been rushed. There have been dozens of meetings, individual meetings in every ward. People have been heard, like they've been heard tonight, right now, and for months and months and months. So I do not think that anybody's opinions from any side of this argument about housing, pro or against, have gone unnoticed and unrecognized. So I do not think this process has been unfair. I think this is moving along well, and I think the City Council is right to consider increased housing options across the City of Evanston. I hope that density can be increased gradually and progressively over the next 10 to 20 years, which is the whole point of this plan. So I think it's well thought out, well argued, and I think we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Gwendolyn Braxton, who will be followed by Brian Hansen and then Alf McConnell. If Gwendolyn Braxton is not here, we'll move ahead with Brian Hansen, who will be followed by Alf McConnell and then Gene Combmes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Hansen. I'm a homeowner in the 6th Ward, and I'm in favor of a comprehensive plan that really prioritizes affordable and attainable housing for everyone. But I also, as this process moves forward, want to draw our attention to the policies that need to accompany that change in order to produce the result that we want. And I want to talk specifically about displacement. Displacement is an issue that's happening right now in Evanston. If you look at the plan, we see that rents have increased by 41% in the past decade. Nearly half of renters in Evanston spend more than 30% of their income on housing, and over a quarter spend half their income on housing. And if you look at the demographic change, you see long-term communities like the African American community in Evanston decrease as a proportion of the population. So we need not only to increase housing supply, but we need to combine it with a set of policies that can address these issues of displacement. And I encourage that either a mandate get created in the plan or that this plan follows by looking at strong anti-displacement policies such as providing financial help to residents at risk of displacement, supporting those who live in affordable housing, expand the supply of long-term affordable homes. Evanston's growing less affordable every day. This is a common effort, and we hear everyone talking about affordability. The question is how we get there. And yes, zoning isn't going to do it on its own. It's important, but we need to take seriously the policies that accompany those zoning changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Alf McConnell, who will be followed by Gene Combmes and then Sue Lbach.
My name is Alf McConnell. I'm a developer of affordable housing, and I would encourage the City Council to make sure that they get a market study that determines the amount of affordable housing needed in Evanston that benefits Evanstonians and that does not essentially benefit other municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Gene Combmes, who will be followed by Sue Lbach and then Trisha Connelly.
I'm Gene Combmes. I live in the 4th Ward. And I think we really do need equitable, financially and racially equitable housing in Evanston. I think what gets talked about as zoning changes really is more about a symbolic thing to me. Is do we want some of those fine houses on single-family houses to be just that and really rich houses? And do we want to keep everybody else in the 5th Ward and the other places, or do we want to relax some of the zoning and relax our attitudes and promote true economic and racial justice in Evanston? And I think the comprehensive plan needs to have strong language that supports equitable things throughout, not maintaining what we've got, but increasing affordable housing, increasing those sorts of things. it is a vision statement, so I think this quibbling about little things is, again, quibbling that's posturing about some other deeper dividing issues in Evanston. And I think we need to trust future developers to do the fine points.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Sue Lbach, who will be followed by Trisha Connelly and then Sam Pascal.
Good evening. I'm Sue Lbach with Connections for the Homeless. And as you all know, I am up here often talking about the need to increase the supply of affordable housing for people at all income levels. The comprehensive plan and zoning change are both ways to do that. Zoning is just a way to open the door. There are many other things that need to be done, and the comprehensive plan, I think, lays the groundwork for those. This includes building new buildings, but that is not the only thing that needs to happen. We need to allow replacement of some current buildings to allow more units. We need to let some of our current residential buildings be replaced with more units. We need to allow unused and underused office buildings to be adapted, and we need to find funding for subsidies. The comprehensive plan is laying the groundwork for that kind of flexibility, and that is what we are really pushing for, and we are excited that it looks like that's the direction it's going, and we encourage you to support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Trisha Connelly, who will be followed by Sam Pascal and then Olin Wilson-Thomas.
Hello. I heard it said earlier, but I think we're all in agreement housing is a human right. I'm not clear that that really resonates for me in this document, and I think it would be important to state that as a community in this document, because by stating that, it has some weight to it. It has some weight of who we are as a community, who we are as elected leaders, and what we are actually willing to put forth as people, as a government in this community to help alleviate the big pressures that exist in housing for profit. Let's just face it, it's a thing, and it's becoming more and more of a thing. We might not be feeling it as heavy here, but take a look around the country. There is a project called the Private Equity Stakeholder Project. I recommend everyone look at that. The South has been hit hard. Part of the reason is because they have no guardrails. So private equity has come in, done all kinds of things with housing. Do they have units? Heck yeah. Can people afford them? No. This has not helped, and we have to get real clear on that. So, some of that's going to happen. We need, this income and so forth. But what I want to suggest and really, really push with you all, and I hope everybody in this room pushes it, is social housing. You may not like calling it social housing, but we're talking about housing where we make a commitment as a community financially to put some housing in this community. Thank you.
The next speaker is Sam Pascal, who will be followed by Olin Wilson-Thomas and then Mort Denlow.
Hi, I'm Sam Pascal. I'm a third-generation Evanstonian, and as of last month, I'm a resident of Chicago's 40th Ward. After many failed applications, I was forced to expand my search for housing to Chicago. Evanston has a housing shortage. Evanston as a city has constantly been growing and evolving throughout its history. It started in the 1800s as a college town on the outskirts of Chicago. In the early 1900s, it became a streetcar suburb with walkable neighborhoods and where pedestrians shared the streets with cable cars. And in the mid-20th century, we took out the cable cars and became a car-centric suburb. Each generation of Evanstonians has remade this city to fit their image and to serve their needs. I think the generational divide throughout this process has made it pretty clear where young Evanstonians stand. We want the city of Evanston to take this plan in the next 20 years and lean into Evanston's more urban side, including more housing, more transit options, and walkable communities. And based on the April election results, it's clear that Evanstonian voters agree. Envision Evanston 2045 ought to put that priority to the people who are going to live here in 2045 first. Protecting the character of Evanston means allowing my generation to mold Evanston to fit the changing times as the city has done for each preceding generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Olin Wilson-Thomas, who will be followed by Mort Denlow and then Noah Finkelstein.
Good evening. Olin Wilson-Thomas, 9th Ward. I'd first like to address the issue of market rate housing. Some here tonight have opposed it, saying we need to have more land trusts and subsidized affordable housing because only this will reduce gentrification. So given that logic, the same people that come here every other week to decry new market rate housing should be fully supportive of new permanently affordable housing, right? Well, at a recent community meeting to discuss the upcoming affordable housing development on South Boulevard, here's what one resident had to say, quote, "They're not used to being in a quiet neighborhood like Evanston. They're used to coming from Rogers Park or the south or west side. They're a different type of people who don't appreciate the surroundings we have," unquote. The speakers who oppose this plan are impossible to please. They oppose market rate housing for being too expensive and oppose subsidized housing for bringing in more crime. Somebody else here tonight asked for examples of when new housing developments have actually created affordable housing. I have a few examples. I have 81 to be specific, because since 2013, Evanston has built 81 housing units under the IHO. Collectively, that's over 2,000 years of regulated affordable housing that our teachers, cleaners, police officers, and service workers can actually afford. And that was under the old version of the IHO. With the recently passed version that requires a 50% increase in affordable units, this number of affordable homes should increase exponentially over the coming years, and we desperately need it to. This is because the current wait list for affordable units in our area is over 900 people, and over 350 of those people list Evanston as their preferred location. The wait list is getting longer each month, and it's up to act. Delay is not a neutral action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mort Denlow, who will be followed by Noah Finkelstein and then Kat Velma.
Good evening. I'm Mort Denlow. First, I want to thank you all for the time and attention that you give to these important issues. I've been a resident of Northeast Evanston for 52 years. And during that time, the challenge that we have faced is how do we balance Northwestern University's U1 zoning district with our residential housing concerns. We fought that battle 25 years ago in this council, in the courts, and through many, many meetings to accomplish the important result. We created and worked out T1 and T2 transition districts. The T1 and T2 districts are zones acting as a buffer between Northwestern's more intensive uses and the adjacent single-family residences. That was a tough battle, and Northwestern continues to encroach. They have properties that potentially they keep buying up, but we need to have those T1, T2 units. T1 and T2 emerged from a federal consent decree requiring oversight through the Northwestern City Committee, which has met over the years to help protect our neighborhood while allowing Northwestern to accomplish. The comprehensive plan should recognize and include a transition district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Noah Finkelstein, who will be followed by Kat Velma.
Hey, everyone. First of all, thank you all for taking the time to listen to us and to just bring the whole city into this process. I paid no attention to local politics before Envision Evanston 2045 and before the last election, but I thought it was really great that you postponed this until after the election so everyone who voted in the election could vote for one of you or not one of you or whatever whoever voted for. But the results are in. You all are up on you guys call it a dais or whatever this is. And I think you should feel empowered by the mandate that's been given to you to enact the will of the people who voted for you. I don't even need to go into it. You guys know because the voters elected you all to do it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Kat Velma.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for accommodating me. My name is Kat Velma. I live in the 6th Ward. So, hi, Council. First, I want to thank City staff for the immense amount of time and energy put in this document. Thank you for all that you've done. Second, I want to add some gratitude to Alderman Frayden, who I don't see is here, but he and Alderman Rogers had a really lovely Zoom call with some folks on Envision Evanston, which I appreciate. Finally, I'm here to share my family support of the comprehensive plan. As a young family with an incoming kindergartner and a toddler, we're very interested in any policies that are pro-family, pro-young family. I guess any family, but pro-family. That's anything that supports walkability, bicycling, public transit, and increased housing options. Specifically within the plan, I'm very interested in the following. First, building a protected bike lane network for all ages that connects neighborhoods, parks, schools, trails, and businesses. Accelerating efforts to fill sidewalk gaps, paint missing crosswalks, and more to support street usage. And supporting the outright development of duplexes to allow for a gentle increase of housing options so that more young families can call and keep calling Evanston home. Very specifically, I want to emphasize my support for council as it relates to options 1, 2, or 4 on Chapter 10 of the Housing Section 2.1. So Section 2.1, options 1, 2, or 4, which specifically allow us to preserve and increase Evanston's housing choices. As others have said, this is not about me. It's not about my wonderful neighbors. It's about our young people. Let's build some more options for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is, so that concludes those who signed up on the in-person sheet to speak in person. We now move to those who signed up.
I think maybe my name was called earlier.
Gwendolyn Braxton?
And Trumpeter.
Nope.
I got an email that I was confirmed.
You did. Correct. Exactly right. So we now move on to those who signed up online to speak in person, beginning with Eric Passett, who will be followed by David Emmerich, and then David Galloway. If Mr. Passett is not here, we'll move ahead with David Emmerich, who will be followed by David Galloway, and then Jonathan Selden.
Hello. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak this evening, and to members and staff with who've always been readily accessible to receive my comments or questions. The notion that citizens have lacked a forum or channel to contribute their voice to this process is frankly ridiculous. In addition, I'd like to note that elections matter and appreciate the elected members of this council. Please continue to represent your constituents and the priorities demonstrated in the election results. I'm a 4th Ward resident and the father of 2 ETHS students. I am not here to discuss density. Rather, other than to encourage you to do the good work to keep Evanston a vibrant community with an urban core and thriving commercial corridors, rather, while directing staff on ways to advance the comprehensive plan, I implore you to strengthen language related to transit and bicycling infrastructure. This will ensure that citizens who, like my children, must or choose to use car alternatives will see safe and equitable routes implemented as an integral part of the city's strategic direction. Additional specificity in the transit elements of the plan should require appropriate refresh of the bike plan with articulated standards and implementation benchmarks, and prioritize policies that facilitate a network of protected bike lanes. Complete street projects, improved mass transit, and transit-oriented development. We've moved to and remain living in Evanston because of the ability to conduct our local lives on foot and by bike with access to commuter trains, among the city's many other amenities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is David Galloway, who will be followed by Jonathan Selden, and then Ann Trumpeter.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, City Clerk, and City Manager. I am here tonight to express the opinion of the Board of Directors of Design Evanston on 3 items. First, we are in agreement and support the goals as represented tonight by Robert Keading and those of the Evanston Transportation Alliance. Number 2, we support the establishment of an Urban Design Commission and are in support of 5K-page 45, NP 71, 72, 73, and 74. And lastly, we encourage the city to hire an urban design and zoning consultant to facilitate the execution of a zoning ordinance that informs and engages the neighborhood citizenry in order to conceive of the varied kinds of modifications and new developments that increase affordable and attainable residency within forms that are sensitive to their respective existing physical contexts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jonathan Selden, who will be followed by Ann Trompeter, and then Christine Bray.
Hello, wise elders, and I say that satirically. I want to say that I am supportive of more housing. There's multiple studies that support more housing leads to slower growth of pricing and home prices. This can be found in Austin, Minneapolis, and many other places. Evanston has fixed borders, the lake, and the canal. We can't sprawl out anymore. We need to build up. We need more housing to accommodate more people for also more political leverage, since Illinois might be losing more political leverage in Washington. I know somebody might care about that. In any case, I applaud the City Council for trying to make discussion very accessible and finding new ways to get the discussion going. Recently, I was at a sort of a breakout table where residents would discuss ideas of what they'd like to see. Much to my chagrin, I was cast as a newcomer shouldn't have opinions, and we should build a wall to keep out, more people, so we keep housing values as is. But to finish up, I want to say that we should be welcoming neighbors and not live by our lawn sign values, and that we should have transit, or we should have a bus route at every train station.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Ann Trompeter, who will be followed by Christine Bray.
Good evening. My name is Ann Trompeter, and I've lived at 1422 Judson for over 20 years. But I'm considering leaving my beloved home after all these years. Why would I leave my friends, my church, our lakefront, and the businesses that fill my life so richly? Because Envision Evanston seems designed to throw a firebomb into our city, and I don't think I can stand to watch it happen. I object to the distressing and draconian zoning district changes proposed in the plan. I object to the extra tall residential buildings on commercial streets the plan calls for, among other things. Our current zoning rules are in place to bring order to our community. These changes will signal that it's free rein in our neighborhoods to destroy and that anything goes. Increasing density is not a solution to create affordable housing. Increasing density will signal that it's open season in Evanston for developers at the cost of our unique Evanston aesthetic. I ask the council, my screen went to sleep, to pause this process, take a deep breath, and make better decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Christine Bray.
Hello, my name is Christine Bray. I am a transgender woman who moved to Chicagoland as recently as June 1st. And I am here today. I have heard at this and the previous meeting questions about what is the rush. I moved here from Texas. When I was moving, I was scared that if I changed my driver's license in Texas to try and update it to reflect my name, that I would lose my supporting documents. I have tons and tons of friends there, queer people, a woman in my church who has had the state attorney try and take her child multiple times because she supports her child who is transgender. There are hundreds of thousands of queer people. There may be millions. I know that probably about half of my trans friends in Texas are all thinking about moving in the next year. They are thinking about moving to Chicago, Minneapolis, Philly, Portland, like all of them, just those 4 cities, because those are blue cities and blue states where they know that they will be able to live in a place like this where their rights will be protected. But that means that there are, not just queer people, but women who can't get abortions, right? Who are dying in hospitals because they cannot get abortions, even if their pregnancy is ectopic. People who are losing all kinds of other rights, who need to be able to move to places like this. This is a numbers game. There are people who desperately are living under fascism in southern states right now who are trying to get out, and they need places to go. Please add more housing here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that concludes the in-person portion. Did I miss anybody who signed up in any way to speak in person? Okay. Let's go through the online commenters, and you can just come and approach the dais while that's going on, but you can sign up on the sheet here. We move on to the online public commenters, beginning with Michael Lohr, who will be followed by Carol Boone, and then Mary Rosinski. It looks like Michael Lohr is not available, so we'll move ahead with Carol Boone, who will be followed by Mary Rosinski, and then Jack Jordan. Looks like Carol Boone is not on the Zoom as well, so we move ahead with Mary Rosinski, who will be followed by Jack Jordan, and then Mark Fan. Looks like Mary Rosinski is also not in the Zoom, so we'll move ahead with Jack Jordan, who will be followed by Mark Fan.
Hey, all. Hope you guys are all having fun in there. I'm Jack Jordan. I'm the Executive Director of Climate Action Evanston. And first off, while I support many of the comments made in support of increasing housing supply and housing diversity, as well as investing in our transit, biking, and pedestrian infrastructure, I need to use my time tonight to focus on something that no one else has talked about, and that is the ongoing environmental equity investigation. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Evanston Environmental Justice Coalition and our partner organizations to advocate that specific mention of the environmental equity investigation, or EEI, be included into the comprehensive plan. As a reminder, this was called for in the 2020 EJ resolution, and it was funded by the city last September. As recently as last Wednesday, the consultant team presented its findings to community members at a public workshop. We were all very impressed by the findings, and based on that presentation, I can say with confidence that funding this investigation is one of the greatest tangible actions that the city has taken to investigate environmental inequities, and I give city staff and the consultant team a ton of credit for a very successful investigation thus far. The main things here is that the investigation covers issues like tree canopy discrepancies, green space, air pollution, and housing costs with far greater nuance than we've ever had before. For instance, we've always known that there's a tree canopy discrepancy in the 5th Ward due to historic redlining, but this investigation actually shows that discrepancy down to the average inch of tree diameter in Evanston's wards. Similar nuance is seen for issues like housing costs, air pollution, and flooding. The city paid good money for this investigation, and everything we have seen so far has shown that this is money well spent. So we urge council and city staff to include a mention of the EEI in the comp plan, and we plan to submit a letter to you all with those specific areas where the EEI ought to be mentioned. We're not talking about major changes, but merely a few sentences which will help ensure that these inequities, which were created over many decades, will be addressed in the long-term goals and policy actions included in the comp plan. We have the opportunity to incorporate better, more nuanced data, so let's use it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mark Fan.
Hello, I am here today just to voice my support for protected bike lanes in the city, increase public transit and walkability in the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the online portion of public comment. The last speaker, who for the record was previously signed up, although with some misspellings, effectuated surely by others, is Zafiro Papastratakos.
Papastratakos.
That's it. Zafiro Papastratakos.
That's it. I just wanted to say that I think that with regard to density and zoning, I'm very concerned about the elimination of single-family zoning, especially in the historic district. Right now, we have a mix that is unseen, I think, in most other places. If you were to go down Sheridan Drive, Lakeshore Drive, I don't know of any other places that have single-family houses with the kind of green space that's accessible to the average person in the way that Evanston does. I live in a multi-unit building. I rent next to the historic district, and I don't know where these economic mixes exist. So when we talk about having a mix of types of people, economically, I'm able to live in a very beautiful neighborhood and walk and enjoy that. And I don't know that you have that anywhere else on the North Shore or in Chicago. So when you're crafting the idea of including a greater density, I would be very concerned about what that means to the specific type of place that Evanston is and the reason why people choose to live here, the kind of life that we have, where I'm concerned where there's increased density to the extent that maybe the lakefront becomes an area similar to River North. Is that what we really want? Or along Main Street, if you're to go up 60 feet, how does that actually affect the houses around it? Does that mean I have to stop?
Yes.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much to all who participated in public comment this evening. We now move on to special orders of business. So, good evening, friends. I'm going to try to channel my best NUSMA up here. We have a lot of comments that all of you have put forth to get through, and what I would like to do is to get to the end of the packet so that at the end of this evening we have a provisional final draft of this document, which I would then encourage us not to vote on this evening, but rather to vote on at a subsequent meeting, tentatively August 18th. And so as we go through this, I'm going to just ask folks to do a few things. One is to make clear, precise motions, when possible, referencing something specifically in the packet. And two is just to keep the discussion as focused as possible on the items before us to make sure that we continue to make progress. So the first thing in the packet is what staff prepared as consent vote items, which were based on the input given to staff from the council members, items that staff believed to be uncontroversial among the council. And so I would entertain a motion to accept all of those if that's what y'all want to do. Councilmember Rogers.
I'd like to ask staff kind of how we arrived at this, because there's a lot of questions I have about things on the consent agenda, things I don't agree with on the consent agenda, which means it's no longer a consent agenda if I'm going to be asked to vote on it. So I'd just like to know how we kind of arrived with our comments being included for presentation tonight, because there are things I presented that appear nowhere here, and I just kind of want to get a gist for how we ended up here.
So before I jump in like last time, does anyone have to use the restroom? Okay, cool. We only had, 3 times last time? Hello, folks. Erin Baines, Planning and Policy Supervisor here in the Community Development Department. We did have a slide deck for you, so we would like to introduce that. We can give a little bit of how we got here and how tonight will be formatted, if that will work for you. Awesome. All right, so just to reiterate what happened on June 24th, our last meeting, it was our first time being hands-on with this draft of the comprehensive plan. And here we fed you some big ticket items. There was a lot of conversation and discussion about some of those high-level policies. And our task for that meeting was to really drive what we were looking at as a focus in the comprehensive plan, figuring out some more of your asks, including some data and some analysis. And the goal for that was to review all those high-level topics so we could now return to you today with what we have. Looking at that timeline, of course, our first review was June 24th. We did ask that all of the written submissions were sent to us on July 3rd. At your request, we did extend that to July 7th. We compiled everything in a matter of less than 2 weeks for you this evening. And so we have a review and approval stacked for you tonight. And then our next review will be at August 18th. So looking at our development today, what are we asking from you? First and foremost, we had a lot of feedback that was conflicting, as Councilmember Rogers highlighted. And so this is where we need you to take the power that is in your hands and make that decision. How would you like this to be interpreted? There are a couple of different variations on language that we would like you to offer your insights to as well. Of course, we also do, as Mayor Biss reiterated, want to go top to bottom, vote yes, no throughout our document, have our great discussion, and take from that what we may, and then move that into an approval or rejection for all items so that we may come back with you with the most polished version of a draft that we can in August. So looking over at what that procedure will look like, well, of course, we'll start with the consent items. I would recommend that we review these by chapter. And if there's something that a council person would like to pull, we are open to that. So now would be the time. And then we'll move on to items for discussion, which again will be some more of a robust conversation around some of these stickier items, if you will.
So I don't know if you want to like go deep under the hood of how exactly you determined what to put, you know, on a kind of specific technical level, how you determined what to put in the consent passage. I would recommend against a sort of metaphysical conversation there. I think rather if folks on the council believe things in the consent package to be non-consented to, just say so and take them out. Councilmember Davis. Sorry, would the clerk please add Councilmember Burns to the roll? Councilmember Davis.
So on a similar note, a lot of the items that I added were not included in items for discussion. And so what I'm curious about is how we decided to include or not include things in items for discussion.
Thank you for that question. So to provide a little more clarity, most, if not all of these items were suggested by at least 2 people. Those items you will see in the items for discussion. That said, there were several items that were inaccurate, had intentional language, didn't provide any substantive change. There were some that were not in line with existing plans, so that would be things that have already been adopted and put on file. Some things out of scope, things that municipal government really doesn't have a purview over. Other items that were prescriptive, and especially with that point, something to be mindful of with this plan is we want it to be ambitious. So some things come down to a level of specificity that's not appropriate for a comprehensive plan. And if you have something in particular you would like to bring to conversation, we're totally open to that. So we will leave that up to the council person to do that as well.
I'm going to really urge people to remove things from the consent package that they would like to debate, but Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you. Yeah, I also, I feel like this is just very, very incomplete. And quite frankly, I'm not comfortable voting on this. I don't mind if we want to have a discussion tonight on some of these things, but I feel like it's so incredibly incomplete. I think we should see everybody's comments like we do with rules. They were presented at least in some place, whether some were formulated into the consent part or afterwards. But I know that many of my comments are missing. I know there are very important comments I submitted as a result of the NU City Committee special meeting on Envision Evanston. So I'm not really comfortable moving forward with a vote on this. I think it was also presented as discussion, and planning to take a vote, I think, is not in line with, I think, what the public expected this evening.
Councilmember Burns, hopefully to remove items from the consent portion.
I'm going to hold off on that. I just want to make sure I'm clear. Did you not say that we would not vote on this today?
Of course I said that.
I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page here and up there, so nobody's confused, because that's what I heard. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Councilmember Nusma, hopefully to make a motion relative to the consent passage.
So I'll start with a question. I'm ready to move to the consent agenda. Would you like to take this chapter by chapter with a separate motion for each chapter, or one motion for the entire consent agenda?
I would recommend doing it how we do a consent agenda on a typical agenda, which is say, take the time needed to figure out what, if anything, folks want to see removed. Maybe that's nothing at all. Maybe it's 14 things, but then name those from the jump. We'll pull them aside and then take a motion on the rest. That's what I would recommend, and frankly, that's what I would request.
So now is the time for members of council to remove items from the consent agenda should they not feel comfortable voting on them without further discussion.
Precisely correct. And in the version of the packet that's in front of me, that begins on page 6 of 34 and is completed on page 16 of 34. So pages 6 through 16 of 34 is where these items are found. And I would say,
I'm ready to make a motion on the consent agenda, and we'll do so as soon as council members have expressed their desire to remove particular items.
Great. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I'd like to move that we don't vote this evening on any of these items. I feel like it really was a very non-transparent method that was and we were not made aware of this plan to select certain items from our documents to put onto a consent agenda. So I'd like to make a motion. I'm not comfortable with this. I don't think this was done in a way that, again, was transparent. So I'd like to move that we don't vote on any items this evening. We can discuss them, but I don't think we should be taking a vote.
So you want us to take a vote on whether or not we get to take votes later? And if we vote yes, then we don't get to take votes later?
I'd like to make a motion now that we not vote on any items on the consent agenda.
Self-refuting motion. Council Ruggie, is that motion in order?
I believe Councilmember Nusma has a motion on the table. Is that right?
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
No.
Okay, then it is in order.
But is that so if this motion passes, then if someone else makes a motion, no other motions are in order because no other votes get to happen?
If that's what the council votes on right now, then.
Okay. All right. Well, so we've heard the motion is to have, the motion is to not vote anymore after the vote not to vote. Is there a second on the motion to not vote anymore later, after we vote now, not to vote later?
I'm sorry. So it's a motion not to vote at all this evening, that this is a discussion and there are no votes. Right. Not to vote on any items on the consent agenda, just to be clear.
Is there a motion, is there a second of the motion not to vote tonight?
I would second.
Councilmember Kelly moves that we do not vote tonight. Councilmember Rogers seconds. Is there any discussion? Yes. Please God say no on the motion to not vote that we're about to vote on. Yes. Councilmember Harris.
I thought my understanding of Robert's rules was a motion had to be an affirmative, not a negative. A motion was supposed to be affirmative, not negative.
I mean, again, this motion seems real weird to me, but I asked our corporation counsel, who, unlike me, went to law school, and who I therefore defer to on this question, and she indicates it's in order, and I have every confidence that must be the case.
Okay, Councilmember Davis?
Well, no, wait, no, they get to, I presume this, imagine it, this unusual form of motion is debatable, so a lot of people have lights on. I missed the order, but I think Councilmember, we'll go in numerical order of ward. Councilmember Nusma.
I don't think there's any way we get through this without polling the city council on these specific items in front of us. I think that means we have to vote on these things. Doesn't mean we're voting on the final document, but the procedure we're following tonight is the same procedure we've followed at the two previous Rules Committee meetings when considering a redraft of our city council rules. So, this is in alignment with what we've been doing even recently, and I'm fully prepared to make a motion and vote on the consent agenda and then discuss and vote on the discussion items as well.
Councilmember, we're just going to go numerical, even ignoring the fact that folks have spoken before. Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, so I wanted to clarify, the motion is specifically, you're making it seem like the motion is to not vote, but the motion is to basically not agree on the consent agenda, right? Where the motion is to, for specifically if we're going to approve or not approve the consent agenda, essentially, right?
What I heard was that the motion is to not have votes tonight.
Councilmember Kelly, would you like to clarify? I maybe amend.
Yeah, so it would be not to approve the consent agenda, which would involve not voting, not removing and voting on any items. So there would be no votes with regard to the consent agenda or items on the consent agenda pertaining to the comprehensive plan. We were given less than 2 48-hour business days for this.
So just to be clear, you're saying you want to take a vote now on making sure we don't vote on the part that's probably uncontroversial, but then we will vote after that on the part that is controversial.
No, the only part, there's one part that's discussion, which we wouldn't be voting, correct? The second part.
So let me just reiterate the plan for the evening. And let me urge folks on council who would like to see us make progress in our community to optimize their comments for making progress this evening. We have in our packet a compilation prepared by staff of what was generated by council members in the documents that y'all had up into the July 4th holiday. Those comments are separated into 2 sections. The section that staff thought would be uncontroversial, which is called a consent section, and the stuff that staff thought would likelier be more controversial and require more discussion, which is after the consent section. So what I had envisioned us doing was to first figure out if anything on the consent section in fact requires discussion, pull that off, vote quickly on the rest, discuss whatever was left that requires discussion, and then having finished that, perhaps at 2 in the morning, move on to the part that staff anticipated to be potentially contentious or controversial, or at least require some additional discussion. It sounds like the motion that you've made now is to say, let's not vote on the uncontroversial stuff, but then vote on the rest.
No, I didn't say we should vote on anything.
So just
I was
say
saying we
what your
should not
motion
vote
is, and
on
then
anything tonight related to the comprehensive plan. Furthermore, Tom Suffredin isn't here.
So thank you, Councilmember Davis. So that is the motion, is to have no votes tonight to enable us to determine what council's preference is and direct staff on how to prepare for our next meeting.
Do we need to take a break as a council?
I think let's resolve this matter, and then I think it probably would be helpful to take a break.
Okay.
Councilmember Rogers.
I mean, I personally, in going through the list of the consent agenda, I have 22 items that I have questions about because they aren't fully thought out, or I want to know staff's rationale or council members' rationale for why we want to remove those things. So if you would like to go through, I will remove 22 items from the consent agenda.
I would very much like that, but I think we should first dispense with Councilmember Kelly's motion. Councilmember Hadakaris.
So I think we heard from everyone that we have a housing crisis. Whether or not you believe that or not depends, I think, on your background here. And I've said this from the dais for months now. We should not rush, but we need to get this done, and we need to get this work done. Now, I don't know, me personally, like, we sign up for this job and it can be overwhelming because you only have 48 hours or 72 hours to go through this. Personally, with the Coldplay meme happening, it was really hard for me to budget my time, but I did it. We've been looking at this for a long time. We need to start doing the work and getting through this document. So,
all right, will the clerk please take the roll on the motion to not have votes?
On items related to the comprehensive plan.
Will the clerk please take the roll on the motion to not have votes?
Okay, Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
no.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
No.
Councilmember Isles?
No.
Councilmember Newsma?
No.
Councilmember Burns?
No.
With 3 voting in favor and 5 voting against, the motion fails, and council members will be allowed to make motions this evening. Pursuant to Councilmember Davis's, I think, very wise suggestion, we will stand at ease for 5 minutes. People can stretch, take a walk, take a breath, use the restroom, and at 8:17 p.m. we will return, ready to do this council's work. The City Council will come back to order. You guys, I don't have a gavel up here anymore, and you're kind of making me wish I did. The City Council will come back to order. Shall we be organizers? If you can hear me, clap once. If you can, that was two, Jonathan. If you can count to one, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. Excellent. All right. The City Council will come back to order. I just want to, again, re-emphasize to the whole council that we have really critical work, as Councilmember Hadakatis pointed out immediately before we voted. Could we have order in the chamber, please? As Councilmember Hadakatis pointed out just before we voted, before we took a break, these issues are critical, and there is profound suffering going on as we seek to address them. And so I would urge us all to get to work this evening and proceed with a sense of purpose toward a resolution. So now, are there items that folks would like to see, items that are currently listed in that 11-page range, page 6 to 16 of the packet, that folks would like to see removed before a motion on a consent package? Councilmember Rogers.
I would like to see the following items removed: 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B, 4D, 5A, 5B.
Sorry, what, five what?
I'm sorry, 5A and 5B as in boy. 6E, 8D, 8P, 10A, 10F, 10G, and 12E, as well as then I have some questions on 7K, 7L, 8Q, 9A, 10B, 10E, 12C, and 12F.
I am going to make the executive decision to view your two lists as interchangeable. So
That's fine. I just separated them in my mind so I knew which ones I was doing what on.
Great. Councilmember Davis.
I don't know where my overlap is with Councilmember Rogers, so apologize for that. Mine is 4I, 5A, 5B.
Can you slow down?
Sorry.
So far, 4I is the only new one that it was not on Councilmember Rogers' list.
And then I have 6C. Sorry, yeah, 6C. 8L. 10A. 14C. And that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly?
Items 1A, 1B, and I don't know which ones are overlapping. 2A, 3A, let's see, 3C, 5A, 5E, 5F, 5H. And I just have to say also, these, I didn't even get through them all because it also just gave us a page, so you had to scan and look for the word. I mean, this was really, really time consuming. And again, with the very short notice that we got at 6 o'clock Friday evening, just saying this. These are the ones I was able to get through: 5F, 5H, 5J, 6C, 6I, 7D, 7F, 7J, 8F, 9F, 9G, 9H, 10A, 10B, 10D, 10F, 10G, 12B, 14A, 14B,
Sorry, 14 what?
B, 14C, 14D, 14E. I guess that continues. Okay, that's all.
Presuming there's no additional removals, let me read, I'm going to read slowly the entire list that I have, both for information and frankly for corrections if I make any mistakes. 1, A and B, B as in boy. 2A, 3, A, B, C. 4, A, B, D, I. 5, A, B as in boy, E, F, H, J. 6, C, E, I. 7, D, F, oh, Daniel with your handwriting, J. Is the J correct? Okay, thank God. Sorry, K, L. So 7 again, D as in Dalmatian, F as in Frank, J, K, L. Bless you. 8, D as in Dalmatian, F as in Frank, L, P as in pneumonia, Q. It's an old Elaine May joke. All Elaine May jokes are old, I guess. 9, A, F as in Frank, G, H. 10, A, B as in boy, D as in Dalmatian, E, F as in Frank, G. 12, B as in boy, C, E, F as in Frank. 14, alphabetical run, A, B, C, D, E. That's all that I have. If there are no corrections or additions to that list, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will move the consent agenda minus the items you just reiterated without further reiteration.
Second.
Councilmember Nusma moves adoption of the consent agenda with the many items just read removed, requesting leave from the council not to read them again, but I will if need be. Councilmember Harris seconds. Councilmember Hadakatis, is your light on for this discussion? Will the clerk please take the roll on the consent agenda with all those removals?
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakatis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
No.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
With 7 voting in favor and 1 voting against, the motion carries and the consent items are all approved. We now will go through the many removals. I'm gonna read out, when we get to a chapter, I'm gonna read out all the letters removed in the chapter, and I'll entertain a motion to handle them separately or together as the folks who remove them prefer. In chapter 1, both items A and B have been removed. Councilmember Kelly.
I'm getting a lot of texts that it was announced on the calendar and everywhere that this meeting was from 6:30 to 8:30. So we don't usually put an end time, but I'm getting inquiry as to whether we're going to hold ourselves to what was marked and announced.
I would certainly recommend against it, but Luke, if you want to speak to I will confess to not being an expert on our practice of posting end times, or for that matter, adhering to rational end times around here. Luke, go ahead.
Yeah, typically for city council meetings, we don't normally advertise and end time on the city calendar. I don't know if that was a typo or an error. I'm not sure.
Councilmember Davis?
So sorry, I feel like I have to make a motion first, but I think it's weird. I was really looking forward to seeing all of the comments of the other council members. Because of the Open Meetings Act, we can't meet, in large groups. So the only time we can really have discussion is here on the dais in a group or when we have written communications. And I think the rationale for a lot of the reason why many of those things were excluded makes sense. But I would have still liked to have seen those in a separate section explaining what was removed and why it was removed. Or if you didn't have time to do that, just to have those comments. Because if there were, one of the things that concerned me in particular was this mention of if there were 2 or more city council members who mentioned something, it ended up on the discussion agenda. But I really looked to the expertise of Councilmember Nusma and any one-off critiques he might have in the environmental aspect, or if Councilmember Harakaris had anything related to transit that maybe he just noticed but everyone else did not comment on. I would have liked to have seen all of those comments. And my expectation was that this was a communication to the other council members as much as it was to staff. And when we did the Rules Committee, we included things that were illegal because I accidentally proposed something that was not possible and things of that nature. And so I still expected to see the same level of detail here for the comprehensive plan. And I feel really uncomfortable with that information not being included. And I actually do think that we need another meeting with that information included so that we can scrutinize for ourselves whether or not it was worth mentioning or whether it sparks some type of ideas. Particularly when we mentioned previously that some of the things were on the federal level, there are often things that we can do that translates in the municipal level that maybe it sparks an idea of a concern or a problem that we need to address that we should have been made aware of. And so that segues into my motion where I'm going to request a motion that we do have another meeting on this topic with a more detailed, I guess, I don't know what we want to call this, a packet that has all of the other council members' comments in them. And so my motion is to have at least one additional meeting before we vote on the full plan.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Davis moves that there be, and I just want to make sure I fully understand the motion. Is the motion to have another special meeting where this is the only agenda item, separate from and prior to a final meeting where there's a vote? Or I'm just asking because, for example, we have a council meeting a week from today.
An additional special meeting, yes.
All right. What's that? So there's a motion to have an additional special meeting on the comprehensive plan, if I'm understanding correctly, during which there would not be a final adoption of the comprehensive plan.
Yes, please.
And so that's moved by Councilmember Davis, second by Councilmember Kelly. There are numerous lights on. Are those lights on to discuss this motion? Councilmember Burns, followed by Rogers.
I will support this, especially if we can have that meeting sooner than later. I did not support the motion earlier that wouldn't allow us to vote, not on a final. We know we're not going to vote on anything final today, but to vote at all, just to get a sense of where we are, mainly because of what already just happened. And so I was going to have Mayor Biss say how many were not removed, but it was several, as y'all all were witness to. And so there was no reason why we shouldn't have gotten at least that passed today, since it had support. Why would we delay that another meeting? So it just didn't make sense to me. This makes some sense, right? I felt like this was the real concern, is that there is additional information that people are seeking. And for that very specific information, if we can create another opportunity for council members to become more aware of, other things that were, other feedback that was provided, that will come out. And so I will support that, because I think as long as we can do that meeting quickly, that makes sense to me, as opposed to what was motioned earlier. So I will support this.
Councilmember Rogers, followed by Nusma.
I'll support this. We've not really had a discussion on this as council members. We had one meeting where we discussed select topics that staff brought to us that they wanted clarification on, but I don't know, for example, where some of my colleagues stand on some of these issues. And for us to be moving this to the point where we're voting on things very quickly without me even knowing what comments were raised in a Google Doc, so that if there's a question that Councilmember Newsma and I met where we had an issue we wanted to try to work out and kind of come to common language on. But I don't know if there's other things like that. So I think it's important so that we actually have a discussion at some level on council and not move from specific topics that staff presented to us starting to vote on things to all of a sudden we're voting on a final thing without having talked at all.
Councilmember Newsma.
I'm going to support this motion quite simply because I think it's going to take more time than we have tonight to get through this. So I was figuring we're going to need another meeting anyway.
Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hedakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
With 8 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and an additional meeting will be held. Now, I would entertain a motion on either item 1A or item 1A and 1B on the top of page 6 of the packet.
Mr. Mayor, I will move item 1A and 1B.
Councilmember Newsma moves to approve items 1A and 1B on the top of page 6 of the packet. Councilmember Hedakaris seconds. Councilmember Kelly, followed by Newsma.
I guess I had a question, whoever wrote this, what the rationale was for removing broadly. It also led me to question, we haven't discussed our vision statement, which seems like that's really should be discussed first and foremost. We should all come together and agree on a vision statement that helps to build consensus, and the fact that we haven't even had a discussion about that. So I have 2 questions. One, whoever proposed that, if they could explain.
Councilmember Newsma.
I was at least one of the people who advocated for removing the word broadly. This was the first line in the first paragraph in the first chapter, and perhaps I was irrationally exuberant, and my pencil was sharper than it needed to be. And if it makes everybody happy, I will delete this motion, because if we debate every single word change here, we are going to be here until 2045 and still not have anything passed. So I'm happy to amend my motion to move only item 1B.
Okay, I'll second your motion to amend it.
Councilmember Newsma withdraws his original motion, makes a motion to approve only item 1B. That motion is seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Hedakaris.
So I was one of the people who struck broadly from the comp plan, especially just being right at the beginning. I felt there was a lot of language that was removed or changed to make it so that the comp plan, this you just broadly follow it. Maybe I was overthinking it, but I just thought the fact that we took out, or Land Use Commission removed language about more housing, and the addition of broadly just seemed like, hey, this is the plan, but this is just broadly informs. I just personally found it annoying, but I think attainable. That's one thing I added, and I think that's really important because everyone agrees that we need affordable housing, but we also need attainable housing, and we have to be really clear in that when we're adding, and that's why everywhere that said affordable in the document, I added attainable, because we have a very narrow focus sometimes of who we want to help. And a lot of times we get talk around, well, we need to do this for young families, but we need to do this for seniors, all people, single people, across the board, people need housing, and it needs to be, for me, the attainable needs to be all over this document.
So my recommendation, Councilmember, would be that we now proceed to a vote on the motion before the council, which is the 1B motion. If you want to make a 1A motion afterwards, that's great. I hope that if you make that motion, nobody debates it. Will the clerk please take the roll on the 1B motion?
Wait, I thought there was an amendment. Didn't Jonathan?
So the motion before the council at this time is to accept the 1B proposal and adding "and attainable."
But I thought
Can
he
we do a
moved.
voice vote for it?
So Councilmember Newsman just asked a question off mic. I'm happy to do voice votes if people don't yell at me later about it. Are people going to yell at me later about voice votes?
Yeah.
Okay, then no voice votes. Will the clerk please take the roll on the 1B motion?
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Isles?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
With 8 in favor and none against, the motion carries and 1B is adopted. Councilmember Hadakaris, do you want to make your motion?
I move to delete broadly and accept the 1A change.
Second.
Councilmember Hadakaris moves to accept the change in 1A. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Davis?
No.
Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
No.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Isles?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
With 6 in favor and 2 against, the motion carries, and 1B is also, 1A, I apologize, is also accepted. Now on item 2A, Councilmember Rogers.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I have a recommendation maybe on how we can expedite, is that we do a voice vote, and any member that feels a voice vote is not sufficient would ask for that to be done under current practice of Robert's rules.
Councilmember Harris, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you are leaving in 6 minutes. Do you plan to participate remotely in your travels? All right. Okay.
No.
But do you plan on participating?
No.
And would you be okay? All right. Voice votes are fine. Is there a motion? There's a bunch of lights on. Is there a motion on item 2A?
Mr. Mayor, I will move item 2A, which is to add a column to the survey number 1 participant demographics table, comparing the survey demographics to those of Evanston as a whole.
I will second.
Councilmember Newsma moves adoption of proposed language / action 2A. Councilmember Rogers seconds. Councilmember Davis followed by Kelly.
My comment has nothing to do with the motion on the table, so do I just wait?
She wants to talk about something different, so she'll comment after we dispense with this motion. Councilmember Kelly.
So in terms of comparing the survey demographics to those of Evanston as a whole, would this be, I don't know who wrote this, but obviously we'd want to do that in general in every survey. Does that just mean on this particular page, or to have the Evanston demographics? I just am trying to understand how you want this. Do you want like a % change, or to have the map rather the graph present?
If I could, Mr. Mayor, I was one of the ones who made this suggestion, and it's the same suggestion for survey number 1, or survey number 2, and survey number 3 as well. You know, all in the draft document, we do get demographics for the respondents of the survey, but we don't know how that compares to the demographics of Evanston as a whole. And this speaks to the concern that several folks brought forth in public comment about disproportionately, about public comment, public feedback being disproportionately old and disproportionately white. And so I just want to make sure when we're looking at who responded to the survey, we know how that compares to what Evanston is as a whole.
With all the surveys, though.
With all the surveys,
With all this, not just this
yeah.
one. That's why I just want to make that
Right.
clarification, that should be
Yeah,
present
and
throughout.
in fact, if council is open to a friendly amendment, I will amend my motion to include 2B and 2C as well. 'Cause it's all
Those are already accepted.
fantastic.
All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. In the opinion of the chair, The ayes have it. I haven't done that since 2018. And item 2A is accepted. Now on chapter 3, does someone have any motion relative to either 3A or 3A, B, and C, all three of which were pulled?
Please stand by.
Councilmember Kelly.
I'll move item 3A. The proposal is to delete. There are also a large number of senior households, many of which have downsized and moved from other communities to Evanston, drawn by its housing stock and community amenities.
Second.
Councilmember Kelly moves to accept the proposal 3A. Councilmember Nusma seconds. After an awkward silence, Councilmember Kelly followed by Rogers.
So I would just like to know the rationale for wanting to remove that statement, whoever put that in. Assuming what staff said, several people must have put that in for it to make the list here, so I'd just like to hear from somebody who wanted that removed. Several of you obviously put it in, so.
That one wasn't mine, but I'm comfortable with it.
Councilmember Rogers.
Well, I don't think I have my light on, but if you want me to talk, I will.
The motion before us is to accept item 3A. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
No.
Would the clerk please take the roll?
So, Mr. Mayor, we have clarification that this is approval to delete.
Yes, this is approval to accept the proposal that's labeled 3A, which is to delete that sentence. Would
But
the
nobody
clerk-
will speak to it, whoever put it in there. I just would like to hear some
Would the clerk-
explanation.
No one chose to give an explanation. That's their prerogative. You can vote no. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers?
No.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
No.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Isles?
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
With 6 voting in favor and 2 voting against, the motion carries and item 3A is accepted. Councilmember Davis.
I just wanted to make sure, for the next meeting, staff, do you think that you'll be able to add those comments that I mentioned earlier? I don't know if we have to take a vote on that or something, or if it's just something that will happen.
There's no need to take a vote. There has been some text traffic that I wanted to make the council aware of. I think the staff wants to know, are they being asked to just publish everything that they got or to do something more complicated with it?
You can just publish everything you got.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Okay, great. And then I also wanted to move for 3B to be added.
I'll second.
Councilmember Davis moves acceptance of proposed language 3B, the addition described. Councilmember Hadakaris seconds. Councilmember Rogers.
I would just like to ask that there be some additional information put in here to sort of explain this better. I think the numbers on their own are a little misleading because the national average for rental vacancy is 7.1 and it's 1.1 for home ownership. And when we're looking at these communities, Skokie and Wilmette obviously have very intense home ownership. Chicago has very intense rental. So I just asked that there be some language added in there to sort of clarify and give reference to these numbers instead of it just being numbers being presented without any context.
Councilmember Kelly.
So I would agree with Councilmember Rogers, but I think that would have to be a vote to ensure that that comes back that way. I mean, I would propose an amendment to do exactly what you said for that section.
So in the spirit of ruining everyone's otherwise really pleasant evening, I've been very lax so far, as I intend to continue being, about not demanding that everything be put in writing in detail, because the items that we're voting on are pretty clear. That said, I do want to flag the item in front of us is not like swap in these exact words. It's more of an instruction to staff, and I would argue that the advice, the very sound advice that Councilmember Rogers shared, is consistent with what's already in here. So I think it's a very helpful tip, but I don't know that it requires an additional motion. Does that, Councilmember Rogers, is that consistent with your?
Yeah, and I think we're going to, I'm sorry. I think we're going to kind of come across that a number of places here because there's information that I feel is missing. I don't think we need to make a motion on it necessarily, as long as staff reads the intent behind what these comments are. Because mine aren't necessarily votes, yes, no, amending, that sort of stuff. It's clarification and needing additional information or asking where, why, how.
Councilmember Kelly.
So I know, the Land Use Commission voted on a number of items that never made it into the document. So I'm a little bit, in terms of wanting to see changes on something that we're actually voting on tonight, I guess I need greater assurance than just conversation. I am concerned because we have seen votes from the Land Use Commission with a good number of items that were significant that did not make it into the document that was from out of the Land Use Commission.
Councilmember Kelly, could you be a little more specific because the Land Use Commission voted on all amendments that were incorporated in the recommendation?
Right. There were a couple that were missing.
Can you be more specific of what was missing?
Yeah, if you can stand at ease. If you can give me about 10 minutes, and I'll look those up.
What? No.
Okay.
No. Councilmember Davis, followed by Rogers.
Darn it, I forgot what it was. Come back to me.
Me. I think that our assurance is that if the language isn't, and when it comes back, then we have to raise the issue again or vote against it. One of the two.
Councilmember Davis.
Okay, so my question was for maybe for staff. Comprehensive plan. When do we? I do think it's supposed to be a broad document. So could you give some type of guidance of when we've gotten too in the weeds for the discussion? Because I think it'd be nice if we could prevent ourselves from not, and maybe if there's something that isn't appropriate for consideration at such a detailed level, I am more than willing to suggest that to the rest of council. But I'd like guidance because I think sometimes we're veering into things that should be in strategic plans as opposed to comp plans. So could you give an overview or a general description maybe?
Councilmember Hadikaris, can I use you as a guinea pig for a second? I promise I will not offend you.
Of course.
I hope. So it's not just you, not to just pick on you, it just is the first that comes to mind.
Is going to be a Coldplay comment?
I'm going to hold this comprehensive plan at the end of this evening. Please do not put me on camera for that reason. All of this is to say, something that was suggested by a couple folks, not just Councilmember Hadikaris, was building on the geometry and construction plan, which for those of you who are unfamiliar is a partnership that we have with Evanston Township High School to build from scratch during the course of a semester an affordable housing unit. That unit is then moved onto Evanston property and then sold to a family to reside within. Because that is a partnership that's external to just being coordinated by the city of Evanston, suggesting something that is program specific, so language like ensure the longevity of the geometry and construction program, period, would be overly prescriptive. Now, if it was something that was a little more broad, as much as we're debating that term, and said something like explore longevity of current programming with ETHS pertaining to affordable housing, that would be more appropriate for a comprehensive plan.
I also just want to offer that the comprehensive plan is really, you need to think about it as a strategic plan for our future land use and development. So I've heard a lot from the dais about how this needs to be all encompassing of everything that the city does in terms of a comprehensive plan. This is really our strategic plan for land use and future development.
Okay. And so do we want, our comprehensive plans usually so detailed about the current status and having stats and everything? Or is it more of more of a focus on aspirational? When we're talking about occupancy rates, how detailed do we want to be? Full disclosure, this was my input. So I'm curious, is this unnecessary? Like, where are we trying to go?
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge where we are currently, but really the focus should be on where we're headed into the future. And yes, it's good to have those snapshots in time to help inform future policies and planning, but it does not necessarily need to be to a level of every single data point being specific to how we compare to every other community right now. It should be really about our future aspirations and goals.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rogers.
Picking up on what Ms. Williams just said, I'd like to read a little something here. The comprehensive plan, also called the general plan or community master plan, is the official statement of the local government establishing policies for its future long-range development. That's from a little organization called the American Planning Association, who probably knows something about urban planning. So I think that's something we need to keep in mind as we move through this process. And in regard to what Councilmember Davis brought up about things, I think when we see comments that have been made by other council members, then we kind of will get the idea about where things were, and we'll know whether these things were overly prescriptive or not. So I don't want us to necessarily spend a ton of time having that discussion.
The motion before the council is to accept the addition in item 3B, understanding that there was some useful context and color added by Councilmember Rogers. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the recommendation of 3B is accepted. Is there a motion relative to item 3C?
I move the additional interpretation of the Gini coefficient for 3C.
I'll second.
Councilmember Hedekadis moves acceptance of proposed language / action 3C. Councilmember Rogers seconds. Councilmember Rogers followed by Kelly.
This is something, again, I just want to kind of make sure that we're asking for additional clarification, because some of these are kind of vague comments. So I just want to make sure that as we're doing this, we kind of know if staff has any questions for us, that we're answering them now. Oops, sorry.
Councilmember Kelly followed by Hedekadis and then Nusma.
So I think that answers my question. I just wanted to get a better understanding from whoever put that in there, what they were getting at. I also have asked that we have charts of trends going back 20 years, since we're looking forward 20 years. I think it's really important that we're fully aware of trends with regard to almost every set of data. But I think that answers my question. Thank you.
Councilmember Hedekadis followed by Nusma.
So I added the request for more context for this, because this is a measure of income and wealth inequality, and 0.5 looks pretty good. And when you look at the world map, that's very similar to a third world country. So comparables were Colombia, Venezuela, Uganda, a couple other African countries, and overall in the United States it's 0.4, and so it's not really readily apparent that we're actually not doing too well. So that's the context.
Councilmember Nusma.
I'll read what everyone will eventually see when my version of the Google document is published. But my comment here is that Gini is a new metric to me, and likely many others. It would be helpful to have more context. Is 0.55 a good score? How do other communities compare? Might be useful to compare to Wilmette, Skokie, Rogers Park, if not all of Chicago. Based on Gini's score, who are we more like?
Councilmember Davis.
My understanding is that the Gini coefficient was essentially like a measure of like how, okay, no, I'll phrase it a different way. If we have diversity in income, shouldn't we expect a like middle coefficient? Wouldn't that be like a good thing, because it means we have like income diversity? Because if it was just 0, that means that everyone has the same amount of money. And if it was 1, it meant that like the disparity was pretty huge. So like, don't we want it to be closer to like the 0.5 or 1 aspect? Like, I guess like, what is our aspirational goal then for the Gini coefficient?
My understanding of it is that I think as a city, we also want to lift up our vulnerable populations. So ideally, we would not, over the course of time, there wouldn't be that big income gap disparity. But interpret it.
So we could have a good Gini coefficient if we were only a city composed entirely of rich people. Then I guess we could say that, how are we to say? Do you understand? I guess.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So,
and I think this is new for all of us, but it struck me as something that we're not doing well compared to
okay.
places. So.
All right. I'm still out. It's okay. I don't care.
At this time, no one is requesting to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Kelly.
So, and this is a really important coefficient in terms of trends. I think our income disparity has grown significantly over the years, and it's really important when we're looking at where we stand now that we see what's been happening over the last 20 years. And so this is an example of where absolutely I would want to see that chart from 10 years ago and from 20 years ago. And again, with most of the data that we're bringing forward, but this one in particular. So I guess a little bit similar to Councilmember Newsma wanting to have the comparable demographics for Evanston, I would like to just amend this to say to present if it's possible, to present us with a chart going back also to compare over time, a trend chart. Is that something that can be done?
I think the current motion would include
It covers that for sure.
Okay.
So the motion before the council is to accept the item 3C. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and item 3C is accepted. Now on chapter 4, the following 4 items were pulled. Items A, B, D, and I. Is there a motion relative to one or perhaps several of those? Councilmember Rogers.
I would move approval of 4A with the inclusion of business owners among residents, visitors, including business owners as well.
Second.
Councilmember Rogers moves in lieu of item 4A to replace for all with for residents, comma, visitors, Oxford, comma, and business owners of all backgrounds. Councilmember Hedekati seconds. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and 4A as slightly modified is accepted. Now on items 4B and or D and or I. Any motions?
Mr. Mayor, I will move item 4B, which is to replace the word residents with even our most vulnerable. Actually, it's a little bit unclear, but to insert the words even our most vulnerable before the word residents.
Second.
Councilmember Newsman moves to accept the item, the proposed language in item 4B. Councilmember Hedekati seconds. Councilmember Rogers.
Just as a wordsmith and somebody who plays with this, I think even should be replaced with including. I think even is a weird word, like, oh yeah, we're going to bring them along, as opposed to being an inclusive word like including. So that's the only thing I have there.
Wordsmithing accepted.
Yeah.
Councilmember Newsom accepts the friendly amendment to replace the word even with the word including. All in favor will say aye.
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 Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and a slightly modified version of 4B, wherein the word even has been replaced with the word including, is accepted. Now on items 4D and or I. Are there any motions?
I'll move item 4D, which each includes each of which is racially and socioeconomically integrated to the vision statement.
I'll second.
Councilmember Rogers moves adoption of proposal 4D. Councilmember Hedekati seconds. Councilmember Rogers.
I would just like us at some point to have a discussion on the vision statement, which is the only reason I pulled this off, was just so that we do have a discussion about the vision statement at some point in the conversation.
Councilmember Newsma.
I agree, but let's not do that now.
Nope, I'm not asking for that now. This was language for that, so.
Councilmember Kelly.
So I'm just curious why we wouldn't have that at the outset, our vision statement. this is supposed to be our overall arching goals that we as a council come together on, and from there we work on the comprehensive plan is what I would think. So I'm not sure why we want to just push it back. I would recommend that this is something we should be working on prior to going through these items.
Councilmember Rogers.
I would agree with that, but I think I would prefer us to just move through this right now and then have the time and dedication to actually talk about the vision statement rather than sandwiching it into the middle of other things right now.
Okay.
I do think it's vital that we do discuss it, and I do hope council will discuss it. But I don't think this is the appropriate time for that conversation.
Councilmember Burns.
So I'm sorry, we're on, this is 4D, right?
Correct.
Each of which is racially and socioeconomically integrated? Is that where we're at?
Yes.
What are we referring to? Because actually, I thought I understood this, but a little explanation would help. Thank you.
It's that additional language would modify the words Evanston's neighborhoods. So emphasizing the vision.
Saying all Evanston neighborhoods are racially and socioeconomically integrated?
That's in the vision, not the now.
Thank you. I knew something had to be
That's
off.
why we're here.
Thank you.
That's why we're here, my friend. That's the whole thing. Councilmember Kelly.
So when will we? Should we figure that out? When are we going to discuss the vision statement? I don't know, Councilmember Rogers, do you have, I know you worked on it and I appreciate you putting time on it. What would you recommend when we discuss this?
I would think that I'm sorry, I'm flipping on my light. I don't need to. I would suggest that we begin our next meeting with that as we move forward. But I would like to get through the items that are here tonight and have these discussions.
Okay.
The motion before the council is the acceptance of item 4D as in Dalmatian. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris? Councilmember Rogers?
No.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly? Aye. Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Isles?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
With 7 voting in favor and 1 voting against, the motion carries and item 4D is accepted. Now on item 4I, is there a motion?
I move item 4I to add the language increasing the amount of housing that is affordable and attainable for people across all income levels to the housing diversity section.
I'll second.
Councilmember Rogers moves approval of item 4I. Councilmember Hadakaris seconds. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and item 4I is adopted. Now we come to chapter 5, on which the following items have been removed, most but not all of the alphabet. A, B as in boy, E, F as in Frank, H, and J. Is there a motion on some or all of those items?
I move approval of all of those items.
Second.
Councilmember Hadakaris moves approval of the following items. Item 5A, 5B, 5E, 5F, 5H, 5J. Councilmember Newsma seconds. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. And the following items are accepted: 5A, 5B, 5E, 5F, 5H, and 5J.
I actually want to record a no vote on that one. I'm sorry, I'm going through 3 documents here trying to figure out what I just had to note mine didn't include my note.
Would the clerk please take the roll?
Okay. Councilmember Davis?
No.
Councilmember Rogers?
No.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly? She's gone. Councilmember Isles?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
With 4 voting in favor and 2 voting against, the motion carries, and the following items are accepted: 5A, 5B, 5E, 5F, 5H, and 5J. Now on Chapter 6, the following 3 items, and please check my handwriting here. I believe the following 3 items were removed: 6C, 6E, and 6I. Is there a motion on any, some, or all of those three items?
Mr. Mayor, I will move 6C.
I'll second.
Councilmember Newsman moves approval of item 6C. Councilmember Hedekadis seconds. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'm opposed. Well, I'd like to have a discussion, actually.
Councilmember Davis.
So I know that there was a brief mention in our document about climate migrants, and I thought that part of that was the expectation that water will be in pretty low supply. And so do we really want to plan that 20 years from now that we will be able to continue to sell water for very low? Actually, I guess this is just for Evanston customers. You know what? I take it back. Sorry. Read it wrong.
Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakadis?
Aye.
Councilmember Isles?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
With 6 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries and item 6C is approved. The remaining items in Chapter E are items 6E and 6I. Is there a motion relative to one or both of those?
Mr. Mayor, I will move item 6I.
I'll second.
Councilmember Newsman moves approval of item 6I. Councilmember Hedekadis seconds. Councilmember Rogers, was that your light?
No, I was going to second, but I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up here.
All right, the motion before the council is to accept item 6I, and which is adding the words "and increase revenue to the city of Evanston." All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the addition in item 6I is accepted. Now, is there a motion on item 6E?
I'll make a motion to accept 6E. I think that was mine.
Without seconding, I'll add some context. I think Councilmember Isles.
Let's see if there's a second first. Okay, Councilmember Isles moves to accept recommendation 6E. Councilmember Hedekadis seconds. Councilmember Newsma.
Councilmember Isles is requesting some more specific timeframes for the lead service line replacement. There is some variability in the end date because there is a difference between state policy and federal policy as it currently exists, and what federal policy might say in the future is anybody's guess. So being fairly general in the comprehensive plan is, I think, appropriate.
Councilmember Rogers.
I'll agree with that. I just had, for years to come, seems kind of a weird open-ended, so maybe if it's something that's in compliance with federal and state regulations or something like that. This sounds like we're just going to go on and on and on forever, which we may with this.
Councilmember Isles.
I would be open to a friendly amendment from Councilmember Newsma.
Let me catch up with you. CS 5.8. I'm sorry, we're on 6E. Where is this?
It's the target date.
Yeah, but which CS, what is it?
Just a second, I might be able to tell you. 6E.
It's right at the top of page 50.
Can you give me a CS? Oh, it's in the text.
It's in the text.
Okay, right above sewer system. Let me just look at it.
Replacement of system with service lines of Envision, Illinois, and will, I thought,
yeah, it will be an ongoing effort, period. Just delete for years to come.
That means withdrawing the motion, right?
He's going to make an amendment, I think, to my motion.
I think if you want to amend your motion to just delete for years to come, it leaves out the linguistic ambiguity, tightens it up.
But isn't isn't 6E just adding for years to come?
No, I think 6E is requesting that you replace for years to come with a more definitive target date.
And now you're saying just delete it altogether?
Delete it altogether.
Okay. Councilmember Newsman makes a friendly amendment to Councilmember Isles' amendment, which has been accepted. The new proposal before the council is simply to strike the words "for years to come," so that the sentence reads, "The replacement of existing lead service lines has been mandated by the state of Illinois and will be an ongoing effort." All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amended version of 6E, wherein the words "for years to come" are struck, whereas striking occurs to the words "for years to come," is approved. Now on Chapter 7, the following 5 items were removed. Item D, F as in Frank, J, K, and L. Is there a motion relative to one, some, or all of those? Again, that's D as in dandelion, F as in Frank, J as in jack-o'-lantern, K, and L.
I will move.
Councilmember Rogers, sorry.
I'm flipping my light when I'm making motions. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's the Wild West over here. Councilmember Hadakaris.
I move approval of those items in Section 7.
I will second.
Councilmember Hadakaris moves approval of the following 5 items: 7D, 7F, 7J, 7K, 7L. Councilmember Newsome seconds. Councilmember Rogers.
I just have a question about the EV charging stations and multi-unit buildings, whether that, if that's including condominiums, that sort of stuff, if it's all multifamily, or if it's targeting certain ones. And it's not something we need to answer here tonight. It's more of a question out there for staff that I would kind of like to see some clarification on that.
Councilmember Newsome.
I'll speak to that one. This is based on input I've had from several.
And just for those, this is K, correct?
7K.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm proposing we add language to read, develop programs to support the installation of EV charging stations at existing multifamily buildings. This is in response to inquiries from several Fourth Ward constituents, residents of multifamily condo buildings who are befuddled as to the best process to get EV chargers installed in their buildings. They've come to me for city assistance. We don't have assistance to offer. I think it would be appropriate for us to consider offering such assistance. Guidance, not necessarily financial.
I'm fine with it. Like I said, just as someone who lives in a condominium, I'm paying for EV charging from all of my anybody else who wants to do it at the rate of about $64 a month seems to be average, which would almost add 50% to our electric bill. So that's just something I want to throw out there. Do I still have the floor, Mr. Mayor? Because unless someone wants to speak more to 7K. And then the question on 7L was similar, and I'm guessing, Councilmember Newsome, this is also you, was if there was a little more idea maybe behind how this would work. Are we proposing like specific parking spaces on streets that would have charging stations, or how that would work?
My suggestion here is just to delete the word pilot to allow us to develop programs for, curbside, public right-of-way, streetlight, utility pole charging. Maybe a pilot, maybe not. I don't think we want to necessarily set ourselves up to require a pilot.
Okay, thanks.
The motion before the council is to accept the following 5 items: 7D, 7F, 7J, 7K, 7L. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the 5 items previously read are approved. We now move on to Chapter 8, where the following, again, 5 items have been removed. 8D, F, so D is in dandelion, F is in Frank, L, P is in parasol, Q is in, well, the Q sounds like Q, not like other letters. Are there motions on any or all of those 8 items? Again, D, F, L, P, Q.
Mr. Mayor, I will move them all.
Second.
Councilmember Newsman moves approval of the following 8 items, 8D, F, L, P, and Q. Councilmember Hadakati seconds. Councilmember Rogers.
On 8D, I would like to see some reference, although there is no water quality, acknowledging the railroad tracks, the greenways that move through, which are also wildlife habitats, and the importance of protecting those. So that's just more of a, if we could input that. If nobody else wants to speak to that, I also have 8P.
Well, I do think, I mean, this is a specific wording thing, so if you could make specific language suggestion there, I think that would help.
Okay. I have to find the original language to go off to. So if there's no.
Can you relinquish the floor while you're working on that? Councilmember Davis.
For 8L, I'd like to make a friendly amendment where instead of unknown number, we do estimated number.
In which one?
8L. So we have accommodate an unknown number of climate migrants to our population, and I would like an estimated number.
Do you mean that staff should estimate a number, or that should use the phrase an estimated number?
Should put an estimated number, and they should estimate a number, but I don't think they actually
I don't know if we'll be able to supply a specific number of what we anticipate in terms of climate migration. Is that what you're specifically asking for?
If we have no idea, then I'm not sure how we're supposed to plan for a complete.
I think the plan would be based on population projections, which is a later discussion item, regardless of who they are migrating or coming to our community. Its population projections would be all encompassing of those that were arriving here for any various reasons, if that makes sense.
But I would think that means that we do have an estimate then. If we have a projection, a projection is kind of like an estimate, I would think.
So we would need to then parse out the population projections as to who is being born, who is migrating to the community, and then specify specifically of those migrants who are climate migrants.
Okay, all right. I know I see what you're saying. I just think that if we already have an all-encompassing plan for all of the people that we anticipate, I'm not sure why we're singling out specifically in this part, for climate migrants then. What's the purpose of this language? It seems like we can't act on it specifically. It seems non-diversified to the general needs.
So in this instance, I think the key is that it is unknown because it's still hypothesized that we'll see I don't want to say an inundation, but an increase of folks migrating to the Great Lakes region once climate change has turned us on its head, if you will. So I think it's not specified, but it's providing us the acknowledgement with which to leave space for those climate migrants. That's still unknown, even I think for climate experts. I'm sure someone somewhere is working on that number. I just don't know if it's something within reach for us right now.
Councilmember Newsma, I'm going to suggest that you modify. I'm going to request an amendment, actually, that instead of change, I think we should remove this. There's too many unknowns. We already cover it in a larger policy, and I'm not actually sure what it's adding, because I don't know how we would plan specifically for this group and separate from our general housing needs. But either way.
I am comfortable with 8L as drafted. I read this as acknowledging that some of our population increase is going to be due to climate migrants, but how many and how that would be measured is virtually impossible to predict at this point, and would be very difficult to measure in future years as well. So really this just acknowledges that we are going to have, that climate change is one of the drivers to our population changes here in Evanston, and inclusion of this particular change. It simply acknowledges that without getting into unnecessary detail.
To offer some clarity as well, the change is to just change the word welcome to develop and implement. So we don't even have to discuss the sentence itself. It's a word change.
Good point.
Councilmember Rogers?
Going back to my initial, which was policy number 5, I would include manage land along our railroad greenways, lake shore and the North Shore Channel to enhance native habitat, reduce erosion, and protect and preserve water quality, although I know there's not any water on our railroads. But I think that's the best way to work that in without making it a lot more wordy.
Can you repeat that, please?
So it would be to manage land along the railroad greenways, the lake shore, and the North Shore Channel to enhance native habitat, reduce erosion, and protect and preserve water quality.
Councilmember Nusma, do you accept that friendly amendment?
I'm comfortable with that, but it looks like staff might have something to say.
There's language that mirrors your suggestion later in
Okay, maybe
the
I just have it
chapter.
in the wrong place.
I think if it's already said in that context, we can probably leave it where it is.
That's fine. I just want to make sure that we're acknowledging those as areas of concern for erosion, because we've seen what's happened with the Skokie Swift a few years ago, as well as recognizing them as native habitats. That's fine. So it doesn't have to be in that one wherever it appropriately fits.
Councilmember Rogers withdraws his friendly amendment. The motion, Councilmember Rogers.
Has anyone spoken to 8P? If not, I'd like to speak to 8P real quick.
Go ahead.
Which is, I have concerns that we are planting climate-appropriate native species. I think this would be more appropriate to say plant climate-appropriate species with an emphasis on native species where appropriate. I'm using the word appropriate a lot now that I realize that. Develop and implement cost-effective methods to ensure appropriate species are available to fulfill city requirements. I spoke with a landscape professional on this, and there's a concern about what is native and if it even will grow, because as you know, as climate changes, native plants no longer take root. Plus the fact that this would basically do away with any sort of ornamental plantings for the most part on a lot of our city properties. So I would encourage that the native species be removed, and instead it say with an emphasis on native species where appropriate.
I'm comfortable with that change.
Councilmember Rogers makes a friendly amendment to, rather than, sorry, does your friendly amendment retain the second sentence?
Yes.
Okay, so to retain the second sentence, but to replace the first sentence with the following: plant climate-appropriate species on city property with an emphasis on native species when appropriate.
Where appropriate.
Where appropriate. The amendment is accepted by Councilmember Nusma. So now the motion before the council is to accept items 8D, F, L, and Q, and to accept the modified version of 8P that was just described. All in favor? Oh, Councilmember Rogers.
I would, with 8Q, I would emphasize the same sort of thing, that we really emphasize climate appropriate with native plantings when they are appropriate for this one. So read incentivize climate appropriate plantings and where appropriate using native plantings and rainwater management, et cetera, et cetera. It's basically the same for city and public properties then.
Councilmember Nusma.
I want to emphasize climate-appropriate plantings everywhere and natives where appropriate.
That's basically what this is doing for both of these.
Not sure that's not exactly what I heard you say. I might have misheard you, but I think we agree on.
Yep. Yep, so it's not necessarily that it has to be native, we're really emphasizing the climate appropriate.
Right. Preferably native.
Do you accept?
I accept.
Councilmember Rogers makes a friendly amendment to item 8Q so that it reads as follows. Incentivize climate-appropriate plantings and rainwater management practices on private property, comma, utilizing native plantings where possible, comma, and returning nutrients in seasonal leaf cover back into this. Gosh darn it. Wrong. Incentivize so what he meant, what he said, which I rendered poorly, but will now render correctly, is incentivize climate-appropriate plantings and rainwater management practices on private property, comma, utilizing native plantings where possible, comma, where appropriate, comma, and returning nutrients and seasonal leaf cover back into the soil where possible. And I apologize, I'm going to do it one more time correctly this time. Incentivize climate-appropriate plantings and rainwater management practices on private property, comma, utilizing native plantings where appropriate, comma, and returning nutrients in seasonal leaf cover back into the soil where possible. That is the friendly amendment made by Councilmember Rogers and accepted by Councilmember Nusma. And so before the council is the following motion to accept items 8D, F, and L, and to accept modified versions of items 8P and Q, the modifications being to essentially acknowledge that as climate changes, what has been native may no longer be botanically appropriate, and so the language change has been made to allow that flexibility. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and items 8D, 8F, and 8L are approved, and items 8P and 8Q are approved as modified. Sorry for the tongue twisters. Now in Chapter 9, the following 4 items were pulled, items 9A, F, G, and H. Is there any motion relative to some or all of those?
Mr. Mayor, I think I pulled 9A. I don't know if anyone else did, but I'm fine with it remaining as is.
Councilmember Rogers moves acceptance of item 9A. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Nusma seconds. Councilmember Burns.
We have a council member who left who pulled many items. I just want to make sure those items that I just want to understand that those items that were pulled that don't overlap with other things that people have pulled off, are we still going to remove those so we have to add them back? Or how are we going to manage, how do you plan to manage that?
I plan to continue going through the agenda, and if no one is present who has any concerns whatsoever, I expect very quick approval, but it got pulled, so it requires a vote now.
Okay, and then we'll need to just add those back, remember to add those back in then.
Well, so we already approved everything that didn't get pulled, and then we're going to work through everything that did get pulled, probably accepting most of them, as we have been.
All right, thank you.
The motion before us is on item 9A alone, though. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and item 9A is accepted. And to Councilmember Burns' point, I believe the only person who pulled items 9F, G, and H is no longer here. Is there a motion to accept them?
I move acceptance of 9F, G, and H.
I'll second.
Councilmember Hadakatis moves acceptance of items 9F, G, and H. Councilmember Isles seconds. All those agree will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and items 9F, G, and H are also accepted. Now on Chapter 10, the following items were pulled: 10A, B, D, E, F, and G, which looks like all of them but C, if I have my alphabet correct, which no one should bet on, given how tonight's gone so far. Are there any motions on any of those items?
Mr. Mayor, I will move all of them.
Councilmember Newsman moves acceptance of items 10A, B, D, E, and F. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Hadakatis seconds. Councilmember Rogers.
I would like to just ask why.
Sorry, I stated the motion wrong. That's why I'm interrupting. Councilmember Newsome moved approval of items 10A, B, D, E, F, and G. Councilmember Hedekati seconds. Councilmember Rogers.
I just was wondering why 10A was removed. If somebody'd like to speak to that.
Yes.
Councilmember Newsome.
That one was not my suggestion, but it did make sense to me in the context of how the chapter is written, and this is the introduction. This paragraph kind of sticks out as jumping the gun on the following section, which reads, "This chapter outlines," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm comfortable deleting the purple text as outlined in item 10A.
Councilmember Isles.
There's a good chance it was me. I don't like the word diversity over and over again in housing stock. In the document, I think it's too vague, and we need to be more specific and include, affordability for all income levels is a much better phrase than diversity over and over again. So I don't know if that was me or not, but I know that that phrase sort of sticks in my craw.
Okay. I'm fine then. Like I said, I just had the question on that one. I believe I did. Yeah, I did have 10B as well. Is this a comp plan or is this more of a strategic housing plan item is my question on that one. This is on the 10B paragraph about displacement and people who are unhoused within existing conditions. I just wondered if we're kind of straying into strategic housing plan area there.
I can say that staff does anticipate this will be discussed as part of the strategic housing plan.
As long as it's coming back in that and we aren't just checking off on it here. 10F. I was a little confused here as to what the final language was going to be because we're adding subsidized housing. So what will that final sentence kind of read like?
I believe it's included in the parentheses there would be the how it would read in the final version.
Okay, but it doesn't include subsidized housing, single room occupancy, and long-term shelters as part of the parentheses.
Add it to the end.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing here. And then my final comment on 10G is I would like to include the word after builders of housing providers, and instead of renters, use renter organizations who tend to represent more than a single renter's interest to hopefully gain better representation by renters in that discussion.
Is that motion accepted?
I don't think it makes sense to specify renter organizations and leave homeowners just as homeowners. We have people that live in Evanston who are homeowners. We have people that live in Evanston who are renters. They may or may not be represented by organizations, but if we're saying homeowners, we should also say renters.
I might have a problem with homeowners now that you brought that up, but.
I mean, I know I'm not supposed to do anything other than referee here, but I will say definitionally, homeowners and renters are represented by organizations representing homeowners and renters, and so I would say that those organizations are included by inference in the existing language.
I just want
That's my
to,
opinion,
I just kind of want to make sure that how would we identify renters that we're building relationships with, et cetera. So that was my only concern there, was trying to go more macro than micro.
The motion before the council is to accept the following items: 10A, 10B, 10D, 10E, 10F, and 10G. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the aye, the opinion of the chair is, in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the items just read are accepted. Councilmember Burns.
What are we doing with 10F?
I think the question, the reason it was pulled was to make sure that there's an understanding of what it means, and what it means is to add the words in quotes at the end of the sentence in parentheses.
So we'll be identifying the naturally occurring affordable housing as including.
Because subsidized housing is specifically not naturally occurring affordable housing.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So I probably would then support this if we remove subsidized housing. Also with the definition of NOAA, which I don't know if we've pulled that, but it relates to this. We're not, you have project-based housing where the whole building is subsidized, but then you also have people that rent out to lower income community members who have vouchers, and I would still consider that subsidized because the rent is a market rate rent. But sometimes we confuse that in meetings where we have people that charge market rate rents, rent out to housing choice voucher holders, but consider themselves naturally occurring affordable housing, which I would not. So I see we have Sarah. I don't know if you want to kind of
I think
review the definition and respond to that at all.
Well, I think we just voted on this.
Whatever.
Well, no, but we did. But he's saying that we made a factual error.
Right. You vote on F already?
We did.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I'm sorry. I didn't catch that. There's been a lot of back and forth. So we got to remove subsidized housing. That
I
doesn't make
think I
sense.
could jump in with hopefully some helpful clarification.
Yeah.
This one was my suggestion, and what I have written would read as follows. H3.3, so I'll give everybody a second to catch up with H3.3. Work with local housing providers to protect naturally occurring affordable housing and subsidized housing, single-room occupancy residences. And single-room occupancy residences, I guess. I had more to my change than was included in the consent agenda. I will leave that for another time.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's saying and, not included.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right.
Great.
I still have the NOAA question, which I can bring up later, but I probably should have pulled that. I would like us to
make sure that
discuss
word
at
and
some
in
point.
there.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good.
This brings us now to Chapter 12, where the following 4 items were removed. Items 12B, C, E, and F. Is there a motion relative to some or all of them?
Mr. Mayor, I will move items 12B, C, E, and F.
I will second it.
Councilmember Newsman moves approval of the following items: 12B, 12C, 12E, and 12F. Councilmember Davis seconds. Councilmember Rogers.
For policy 10, continue revitalization of downtown Evanston, I would like to add in also, and our local business districts, because some of them are in need of revitalization still. I don't know if anybody wants to respond to that, or I'll continue on.
Is that an acceptable? Would you accept that amendment?
Get on board with that?
Is to say continue, so 12B right now reads continue revitalization of downtown Evanston, and the suggestion is to continue revitalization of downtown Evanston and other business districts. Councilmember Rogers makes a friendly.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking about this in real time here. I think I would like to call out downtown Evanston specifically. And so I would want to limit this particular policy statement to downtown Evanston, since it's important not only to the 3 wards which encompass part of downtown, or parts of downtown, but to the entire city. We do have other business districts that I think are addressed elsewhere in the policy statements. For example, number 6, continue revitalizing the local retail economy. So maybe that would be a place to add it, but I'd like to keep downtown Evanston as a standalone.
I'm fine with doing that as long as we include the local business districts and aren't kind of like ignoring them. As somebody who has a business district that needs revitalization and continued revitalization. So I'm fine with that either way.
So Councilmember Rogers withdraws his friendly amendment. Go ahead, Councilmember Rogers.
12C, I'm kind of wondering how this fits into a comp plan. And maybe while we're at it, 12E would be also that same question. this is really about relationships with the university and the one, but going back to what we talked about earlier about sort of the built environment and the development growth, if that language could be tweaked in some way to include a nod to that. I don't know who included this or what the intent behind it was, because it's really kind of vague language.
Councilmember Newsome.
This one is me, and I didn't propose specific language, but the thought here was to acknowledge the fact that Northwestern University can be more of an economic driver to Evanston than it is currently.
All right.
It is a significant economic driver now. One of the most significant downtown developments in recent years is the Evanston Labs building. That would not be here without Northwestern University's close proximity and their research. Even though it's not a Northwestern project, taking advantage of research, programming happening at the university that can be leveraged into jobs. I would like those jobs to be here in Evanston.
That's fine. Like I said, I needed some more clarification.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking here. And what we're approving is adding unspecified language.
Right.
So we'll have to see what that
That's why I
language
was
is.
just asking what the intent was. Item 12E, I don't think this is a comp plan idea.
Give me 1 second. That one was mine too.
That's the farmer's market.
Yeah.
This, I presume, is the nefarious secret plan to move the farmer's market.
I am not weighing in on that question of location. Everybody loves the farmer's market. It's an important driver of people, customers, visitors to downtown Evanston. So I think it's appropriate to acknowledge that and express our support to continue it without weighing in on the location.
No, I'm not. I didn't even know there was a nefarious plan to move the location. So
that just shows how secret it is.
That hasn't reached the 8th Ward yet. It hasn't transpired all the way, or hasn't moved all the way to South Evanston yet. I support this, but I don't think that it's a comp plan idea. I think it's an Evanston Thrives maybe or something like that, but I don't think it's a comp plan.
Councilmember Davis, followed by Burns.
I think when staff gave us an example of what does not, it would be too specific, this feels more in line with the geometric house plan as opposed to the general idea that they specified. So I would say I agree with Councilmember Rogers that this may not be a good fit for this aspect or this plan of ours.
I would like to recommend that Councilmember Newsome make a substitute motion that includes the approval of items 12B, C, and F, which I think are likely to pass unanimously, so that we can leave the one that I think won't
So I will split the motion to do B, C, and F in conjunction with each other, and 12E separately.
Councilmember Newsome makes a substitute motion to his own motion to approve items B, C, and F, 12B, 12C, and 12F. Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Councilmember Davis seconds. Councilmember Burns.
It's actually about 12E, so we're good.
So the motion before the council is to approve items 12B, C, and F. Councilmember Rogers.
Just real quick, Councilmember Newsome, I'm guessing 6-7 is yours as well.
Yeah.
Which really doesn't have specific language, but I'm just wondering what the intent on that is.
We have, here I was thinking of the Place Your AI tool, which is a very useful tool to track where people are coming from and where they're going, how they're spending money, what events bring them into town, where they're coming from.
That's fine. You don't have to continue to explain. I'm good with that.
The motion before the council is to accept the following proposals, items 12B, 12C, and 12F. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the following items are accepted, 12B, 12C, and 12F. Now on item 12E, is there a motion?
I move 12E. If it had been too prescriptive in staff's opinion, they would have taken it out. So I'd like to see it there.
Councilmember Newsome moves approval of item 12E. Councilmember Isles seconds. Councilmember Burns.
What I heard earlier is geometry and construction too specific in that it is not really a city program or initiative, at least not entirely, but this is, right? This is a city initiative. The staff person is an employee of the city, correct?
Correct, and also this would require land to be able to be dedicated if the intent would be to grow our current farmers market.
Yeah, okay.
Which
Yeah, I
again,
support this for
I'm
that.
not saying there's a plan to do that right now,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Councilmember.
I just wanted
sorry.
to make sure everybody, that clarification was made. This is a city-funded, this is a city initiative, city-funded, it's staffed by city employees, so that, I think that's the difference. All right.
Councilmember Rogers.
I would just say if the intent is to land sort of thing, then I would like to see that language in here in some way. I don't know exactly what, because obviously I don't want to stray into a nefarious cabal that is moving our farm.
Well, Councilmember Rogers, the nefarious cabal is always looking for more allies.
I would prefer they not reach out to me on the dais.
Zing. Okay. Council member, the motion before the council is simply to accept item 12E. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers?
No.
Councilmember Hadakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Isles?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
All right.
5 voting in favor and 1 voting against, the motion carries, and proposal 12E is accepted. And now in chapter 14, the only items that were pulled were all of them, items A, B, C, D, and E. Is there a motion relative to any or all of those items?
I would move approval of everything that's been pulled out in chapter 14, A, B, C, D, E, and I guess that's it.
Second.
Councilmember Rogers moves approval of items 14, A, B, C, D, and E. Councilmember Newsma seconds. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and items 14, A, B, C, D, and E are approved. This brings us to the end of the consent agenda.
Actually, there are a couple of glossaries.
This brings us to the glossary, which
no one removed.
Nothing was pulled off, though.
Yeah, sorry.
So that brings us to the end of the consent agenda. I'm going to make 3 comments. First of all, pursuant to the motion previously made and in celebration of my wife's birthday, there will be a special city council meeting on July 30th, which will have an agenda very much the same as tonight's. There will be a single special order of business to continue discussion of the Envision Evanston 2045 draft comprehensive plan. The packet will include whatever the appropriate rendering of all of the 10 sets of recommendations that were made by city council members. The second observation I would make is that the packet that we had before us today reflected the comments made by city council members, which is to say no changes to the mission statement. So the mission statement seemed to be perfect in the eyes of all council members.
No, it's not.
But, we'll be happy to discuss any and all items in the comprehensive plan at the next meeting. And the last thing I would say is I would just go back to what Councilmember Hadakaris said very early in this meeting, which is that this work is important and the stakes are really, really high. And I would just urge us as we both prepare for that meeting and carry ourselves through that meeting, that we focus on the most significant issues before us so that we can, as a body, make considered decisions about the stuff that really matters and begin to tackle these issues that are so very important in the community. Councilmember Rogers.
So it's proposed on the 30th?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. City Manager, I have a Parks meeting that night specifically to discuss James Park. Has announcements gone out for that? And if so, How do I handle this?
Yeah, my understanding is I think that meeting starts at 6 p.m. I didn't know.
Scheduled from 6 to 8.
Yeah. I don't know if the announcements have gone out yet or not. I think it's a challenge to find an alternate date. Typically, the first 2 weeks of August, we do not have council meetings intentionally to give everyone a break. So we're trying to get this in on July 30th.
And so I guess I'm requesting if my James Park meeting could be moved, because I can't be two places at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that meeting's important and you got to be at it. And so I would say that if staff could immediately figure out what notifications have gone out, if any, then immediately renotice. And either way, work with Councilmember Rogers quickly to reschedule so that meeting can occur.
Yes, sounds good.
With that,
keep going.
I don't think, I mean, look, I'm happy to keep going, and I'm happy to say that those who are here and get to weigh in. I think that there might be some who would say that with only 6 of the 9 council members present, moving on to the things that are more contested is a judgment call. So I'll defer to the council. I'm happy to stay. I'm happy to stay and keep working. So let me actually ask folks to weigh in, and I'd like all of you to weigh in, because I think this is a tough judgment call, and I appreciate you bringing this point up. I was just about to adjourn saying, hey, only 2/3 of us are left. It's late at night. At the same time, to what I'm guessing may have been your point, Councilmember Nusma, it's an important issue. Folks prepared for this meeting. We've not gotten through that much work tonight, candidly. And so I'm more than happy to stay and continue working if that's the will of the council. Councilmember Davis.
Do we have executive session after this?
I believe not.
No?
No. Councilmember Burns?
I mean, I thought we were going to keep going.
I'm down. Councilmember Nusma?
I'm good for another hour.
Councilmember Isles?
I can stay.
All right, that's 3. One more and we're in. Somebody over in the high numbers?
As far as I have heard, there's no new Coldplay memes, so I'm good.
Councilmember, are you implying that as the rest of us are hard at work on the comprehensive plan, you're checking your phone for potential new Coldplay memes?
I have a Google alert, so yeah.
Understood. We now move on to the non-consent portion of this discussion. So for those of us who are in the packet, this is the discussion item section beginning on the top of page 17. So there are 8 items that are kind of language use for the entire document. Aaron, go ahead.
So as much of our discussion has been centered around
It seems like you're not, can you like talk right into it and we'll see if it's working? No.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, I think if you could just use the handheld mic.
This actually comes much more naturally, so thank you. So as a lot of folks have highlighted, we've used different words to mean different things. Several of these are listed here. In some sections, folks proposed an exchange for the word neighborhoods, or excuse me, for wards, neighborhoods for wards. Why this makes a difference is it's not just a matter of word choice. It is about specificity as we're talking about that balance between how we implement policies. When we're referring to neighborhoods, we mean the smaller subsects of wards and that crossover wards that might be shared by wards. When we're talking about wards specifically, we mean just the 9 wards that be. So in that instance, word choice is very important. So we want to clarify whether you have a preference for wards or neighborhoods. Moving down, housing diversity was something that a couple of you have already mentioned as well. The phrase displacement and the way in which we use that, there isn't a ton of specific language about anti-displacement, but there is some about displacement.
Aaron, I'm sorry. I think we're going to save you a little bit of pain if we just tackle them one at a time.
Just do it? Cool.
Yeah, so let's go back to A, and I'll confess, I'm trying to keep my mouth shut here. I'm pretty biased here. I think using wards is a real mistake for a couple reasons, one of which is that the ward map is likely to change. It will change in, several times between now and 2045. Councilmember Nusma.
Let's use wards when we mean wards, but most of the time we probably mean neighborhoods.
Councilmember Burns.
I just don't think, other than business districts, I don't know if we have neighborhoods in the same way Chicago does. And so I want to make sure we're using it. I want to make sure I understand how we're using it, because we don't really have neighborhoods here outside of business districts. Aston Arts, Weston Village, but those are business districts, and which have specific boundaries through our economic development activity. Wards have specific boundaries. Neighborhoods is like, what does that even mean in the context of Evanston? I'm not sure.
Councilmember Davis, followed by Rogers.
I agree. I don't know what a neighborhood is, like what it means when we talk about neighborhoods. So I would like something more specific as well, or a definition for neighborhoods, but.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Yeah, I think we should use wards when we're talking specifically about the wards and especially demographic information.
Sorry, hold on. We can keep that off if you prefer the handheld. There's no problem with that. All right, we're gonna switch it off. We're gonna go handheld. Councilmember Hadakaris, carry on.
And I think neighborhoods can be used when appropriate because it is fuzzy, but there are kind of distinct parts of each. If you think about your ward, there are some parts that are definitely a neighborhood. There's some natural boundaries with, streets, but I would prefer to mostly use wards because that's, I think, a little bit more exact.
Councilmember Rogers.
You skipped over me.
Councilmember Rogers.
I think neighborhoods is important, even though they are kind of amorphous about where the boundaries truly are. It's a little different for us maybe in the 8th Ward because we have the Skokie Swift, which literally divides the ward. And so we have very distinct neighborhood areas. So I think using terms like ward for us doesn't mean anything because we have extremely dense areas, extremely light single-family areas, and then kind of tight single-family areas as well.
Councilmember Burns.
Can you give an example of when we're using neighborhoods, and then maybe that could help me understand what we're talking about here?
So if you were talking about adding, this is also another policy that's up for discussion, so bear with me. When you're talking about adding a walkable sense to a neighborhood where they could access drugs, food, grocery, anything that's correct, legal, prescription, verifiable drugs.
Is Albany Care a neighborhood?
That it could be a ward, you never know. But so when we're talking about policies like that, it's important to be more granular with that language because you're being intentional about the smallest common denominator. So when you're saying all neighborhoods, you mean all neighborhoods, that everyone, regardless of to where they move, has access to something like that, versus where if you just say to wards are much larger, and so that could mean those things end up in places where they've already historically been.
I feel like all neighborhoods and all wards says the same thing, though.
It's more granular.
I think Councilmember Rogers gave a great example. I think about and I'm not a neighborhoodologist, but I think about in the 6th Ward, for example, it really feels like North of Central and South of Central are two different neighborhoods. And a lot of, as we all know, we all think we're the city and we think that matters, but most people live by the school districts, and I think attendance areas in a lot of parts of the town affect what people think of as their neighborhood.
But if we're using that example, because with the first example that at least the way I understood it, kind of referenced that we would use neighborhood to talk about all neighborhoods. So all neighborhoods in Evanston is the same thing as all wards in Evanston, right? So if we're getting very specific to a neighborhood like west of Green Bay Road on Central Street, we're still kind of giving some direction, a directional cue, Whereas, so in there, I wouldn't just expect to see neighborhood, I would expect us to say central west of, right? So if that's the way we're using neighborhood, like it's neighborhood, but it's also west of blah, 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 east of this. Like I have Smith Park neighbors, this, the neighborhood by the Smith Park, then I'm fine. I don't think a standalone neighborhood means, I'm just trying to make sure that there's some other descriptive language alongside the use of neighborhood within the comp plan, which it probably is. I just want to make sure.
Councilmember Nusma.
I also want to point out that there are neighborhoods that, there's a rather arbitrary ward line right down the middle of, and you wouldn't know. If you're on the west side of Ashland, you're in the 2nd ward. If you're on the east side, you're in the 4th ward. It's the same neighborhood. So I think the use of the terms really entirely depends on the context.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable with using both. Let's use ward when we mean larger kind of political units, but neighborhoods, more generally when we're talking about other stuff, and that, whichever word is appropriate depends on the context. So I trust that staff would be able to.
What I'm asking for,
Councilmember Burns, go ahead.
Motion to make sure this is the case is that we really should never just say neighborhood alone. We should add some other description to it to help guide people as to what area we're referring to, which again, we're probably doing. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about that.
Councilmember Rogers.
I would just caution against that in the fact that some neighborhoods don't really have defined names. I mean, we refer to ourselves as Clyde Callan. But to most people outside of our neighborhood, that means nothing. DBVR, another one in the ward. I don't think the area west of Dodge, I always call it west of Dodge, but I don't know that that's its real name or that anybody would recognize it that way.
Councilmember Burns.
So when would the plan say neighborhood referring to Clyde and Callan and not say it? I just don't understand how it's going to describe.
I think the plan might say, we want to encourage development so that everybody has access to fresh food within their neighborhood, and it would mean places like Clyde and Callan, not places like the whole 8th Ward.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. That's because that's incredibly general. I thought we were saying there are times when we're trying to talk about very specific places in Evanston, and we're referring to it as neighborhood without providing additional information. If it's just that's super general, just say, yeah. I mean that's I don't even know how that was. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I was just going to summarize what I think I'm hearing. And
go ahead, Liz.
Hopefully that can be fodder for a motion. The goal is to use wards when we specifically are referring to ward-specific items, but as a general use of the word neighborhoods, that is acceptable when we are talking about just a general area, not any specific one neighborhood.
Exactly. Right,
okay.
Exactly. Yep. Thank you.
Councilmember Nusma moves that.
And I'll second it.
Councilmember Rogers seconds. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the direction is given. Aaron, on item B. This is about the use of the phrase housing diversity.
Housing diversity. We heard quite an abundant amount of feedback about whether it's appropriate to use a term like housing diversity, if it is a real term, what that means to some folks, what it means to others. Open for your feedback in terms of how that's used.
So basically you're saying there's some feedback that phrase is overused, and you want to discuss that concern. Councilmember Giles.
Yeah, my problem with the phrase is that it's too vague. I think we should say specifically what we're talking about, whether that's affordability for all income levels, whether it's increase the amount of housing that's affordable at all income levels. We have specific goals as a council in this area, and just saying housing diversity, it's just too vague.
Councilmember Rogers, followed by Davis.
I think that using the term diversity of whatever, whether it's housing stock, diversity of housing that's affordable at all income levels, but the term housing diversity in itself doesn't say anything. It's not a term that means something. But I think it's fine to say diversity of something else.
Councilmember Davis.
It's
So I think the term housing diversity was used specifically because it is vague, and it was used as a compromise so that there was no prescription of any actual solution. And the reason that was done is because there's not agreement. And so I think for this particular plan, which I've discussed with the other council members, and I'm going to make a motion for a vote, but I think that we agree that we want affordable housing, but we are not yet in agreement on the plan of how we're going to approach that, and there's still a strong split. And what I recommend is that instead we emphasize that we do want affordable housing, but we leave any mention of how we get about that out of the comprehensive plan, and instead write in the comprehensive plan that we will defer to whatever is decided in the strategic housing plan, and then we will discuss that there.
I would ask you not to make that motion for the following reason. There's a bunch of stuff sprinkled through the rest of the packet that would be in violation of that motion, and I want to give people the chance to vote those things down if they want to. But I think if you make that motion now and it passes, then we're going to have to sort of like pause and strike a bunch of other stuff out of the packet. And it's your right to do it. I'm making a recommendation, and you're welcome to ignore that.
Okay. I think I am going to ignore it, if only because my understanding is that the affordable housing, or most of the housing chapter, is in chapter 10, and I don't think we're going to make it there anyways. So.
But is your motion one that expires tonight?
What?
Does your motion expire tonight, or would it apply to our next meeting?
So what I would think or like is that for our packet for the next meeting, if there could be updates related to that by the next meeting.
All right, Councilmember Davis moves that no language in the comprehensive plan includes strategies for achieving affordable housing goals. Is that fair?
And that we replace housing diversity generally with the idea that we want to increase affordable housing. And that housing diversity is replaced with increase in affordable housing. Is there a second?
Could you say that again?
So the motion is that the comprehensive plan not include strategies for achieving affordability goals, and that rather than using the phrase housing diversity, the phrase housing affordability is utilized. Is there a second to that motion? The motion fails for lack of a second. Councilmember Burns?
It's strange because housing and diversity and affordability are not the same things. That's why I'm frowning my face.
Yeah, so here's what she's saying. What she's saying is we all agree we want affordability. Some folks think that diversity of housing stock is a key part of getting there. Others question that. Let's not have the comprehensive plan talk about the stuff we disagree about at all. Let it acknowledge that we all want more affordability, and then punt to a different time any reference to some of the strategies like more density, more diversity of housing stock that the people seem to have strong disagreements about.
Is housing diversity in the plan a lot now, though, is what I'm trying to understand. Is that
enough to annoy Sean?
What'd you say? You're saying housing diversity is
It's in the plan a lot.
It's in the plan a lot more than you like, because
It's in the plan a lot.
So I think for a lot of this, displacement is the next one, but it would help to have definitions, because somebody may say housing diversity means housing type. It also could mean type, price, like it could be a whole bunch of things. I think we need to understand what it means.
So I think I want to just repeat Councilmember Rogers' point, which I think is really responsive to what you just said, which is a request that when the phrase housing diversity occurs, when possible, more specificity is included. Are we talking about type? Are we talking about size? Are we talking about cost? Are we talking about materials? Are we talking about color? What are we talking about? Does that both respond to your concern and also restate your point, Councilmember Rogers?
Either that or just definitions. What is housing displacement? What is housing diversity? Or more specific, I can't say that word right now, I'm not going to try. When we're talking about something in particular, are we meaning price, type? But I think definitions would just be helpful. We don't have to, because there are definitions for these terms. These are very commonly used terms within housing. So I think definitions could just be a simple way to resolve this.
Councilmember Giles.
So this document is meant to be aspirational. And so I don't think we should be looking to water down what we mean so that we end up with a vague compromise. If our goal is to have housing that's more affordable for all income levels, then whenever possible, we should say that specifically. And that's why I didn't second Councilmember Davis's proposal.
So I would entertain a motion to simply direct staff to go through the document, and where the phrase housing diversity is used, consider whether there are ways to be more specific about what type of diversity is meant. Councilmember Hadakaris?
I will make that motion. Yep, and I think the other key thing, this is not the last time we're looking at this. I think we should.
I'm trying to see. Well, let me just wait.
We should also.
Yeah.
Okay, we should also, as we reread it, look to see other places where. Just make sure that we're all double checking that we're not missing some of these kind of vague word choices. So, but yeah.
So Councilmember Hadakaris moves to ask staff to go through the document and see where the phrase housing diversity could be made more specific. Councilmember Rogers seconds. All those in favor will signify by saying, sorry, do you want a roll call, Councilmember Davis?
Well, actually, I have a comment. So, like in the plan, it says the feedback highlights the importance of addressing housing diversity, right? And so, I don't understand how we can expect. Staff, do you think in that particular? Oh, sorry. Let me read the whole sentence. The feedback highlights the importance of addressing housing diversity, environmental sustainability, transportation, and equitable development. Do you think that you would be able to divine what type of housing diversity was meant in that particular one?
Yes, I do think that we can do that, and I think it would also help to understand where the council is at on the specific changes related to housing policy. One thing I was going to suggest, just to provide clarity on expectations from the council, would be to maybe hold on these few items that we have remaining here until you're able to give direction on the other items that are included in the packet, just because I think it'll help us to understand your intent as a body moving forward. Because to your point, it is peppered throughout the draft, and depending upon how the council votes on later items related to housing or displacement or affordable housing, and in providing a definition of that, it would be easier, I think, for us to understand your intent, knowing how you're voting on the specific policy changes, if that makes sense.
Okay, sounds good.
Do you want a roll call, Councilmember? Or do you want to vote, or is voice vote okay?
Remind me what's on the table.
Basically asking staff to, when they feel comfortable that they have enough direction to do so, to add more specificity to the phrase housing diversity.
Voice vote's fine.
All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the recommendation is approved. Now, out of the frying pan into displacement. Aaron, do you want to speak to item C?
So traditionally, displacement would mean a group of residents who have lived in a space on the basis typically of culture, different from gentrification, however, and they have been priced out of the neighborhood. That's one type of displacement. Another way that this word has been used has been to indicate senior residents who are attempting to age in place, being displaced from large houses. And so we just wanted to maintain that we're using this word in the most accurate way possible for planning practices.
Sorry, accurate meaning the first definition?
Correct.
Councilmember Hadakaris, followed by Burns.
I guess my wish, so I think it's really important that we acknowledge all the types of displacement, because I hear it from constituents all the time. Seniors aging in place on a fixed income, they're being displaced. We've seen a dwindling of the Black population because Black folks are being displaced. And, you know, just there are everyone that I know of, you know, anecdotally on the lower end of the income spectrum are having a hard time staying in town. So if we can be specific about all the ways this is happening, I think that's important.
Councilmember Burns.
I would just say under, really what I think this is obviously housing displacement, and then I think under that, everything I've heard today is economic displacement. Physical being like if somebody was, you know, if you lost your home because they're building a, you know, expressway or something like that. Cultural doesn't have to be economic. It could be if the demographics and character of the neighborhood change in such a way where you don't feel comfortable, that will be cultural. So I'm just hearing housing displacement and economic. And so I think that's how this should read.
Councilmember Rogers.
I think there's other forms of displacement, though, in terms of do we have enough housing for example, elderly people may need to live on a single floor. Do we have that type of housing or in elevator buildings? I mean, you know, we have a lot of condo and apartment buildings that are the courtyard buildings. If you are a senior citizen, being able to get up and down stairs may make you have to leave a certain neighborhood or a certain area. So I think it's important to look at all of this stuff. You know, the main focus of it is a lot of economic, but there's other elements to it as well. Do we have the right housing stock to keep people here who want to age in place? It's not always about staying in your big home that you raised your kids in and everything. You know, my parents moved out of a large home because my father could no longer do stairs, and so they had to get a ranch.
Councilmember Burns, followed by Hedekaris.
Yeah, so that, and my comments were more so up until that point, all I had heard was economic displacement. That's a different type of displacement. I think whatever it is, especially if we like know what it is right now, let's name it and make sure that that is included in this. And then maybe we can reference, you know, that there may be other things that we come up with as well. But let's put a name to whatever you just described and put that in our comp plan.
Councilmember Hedekaris.
Totally agree with Councilmember Rogers and Councilmember Burns. I think I just recently, like in the last year, had to move my in-laws here, and it's more complicated than just economics a lot of time. And actually, at our joint meeting, there were a lot of people who said, you know, I'm aging in place, there aren't that many senior living, and then there's many, you know, needs that people have out there, but, you know, we have to be able to include that too.
I would entertain a motion to direct staff to be clear about the various forms of displacement that are not limited to economic only, but include things like physical ability, cultural inclusion, and others as well.
I would move that we direct staff to define displacement based on those issues and kind of guided by, probably we've gotten some of this in the survey information we've gotten back for people why they have to leave Evanston or why they can't find housing. So using that as a guide as well.
I'll second.
Councilmember Rogers moves to direct staff to incorporate a broad definition of displacement that includes the various reasons that people find themselves no longer staying in Evanston. Councilmember Hedekaris seconds. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the recommendations are given. Now, D is obviously a big old question. Do you want to summarize just kind of you want to summarize the questions and feedback you got that led you to include this in this packet in this spot?
Again, we can hold off on this until we've had further discussions about policy specifically to drive these definitions. But clearly, we have all had different uses of the word the term affordable housing. Attainable housing is sometimes a perhaps more palatable way of folks proposing affordable housing. Subsidized housing is typically what folks consider affordable housing, but is that actually what we're mentioning in this plan? And in what instance are we referencing one and not the other? I think, especially to Councilmember Burns' point, when are we talking about affordable housing, which is no more than 30% of your income, versus attainable housing versus subsidized housing that's using government subsidies to keep folks with a roof over their heads?
Councilmember Newsma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a lot of times just switching the order of those words might help clarify things. And rather than saying affordable housing, if we're talking about the missing middle, for example, refer to housing affordability. So it's clear we don't mean subsidized, low income, capital A, capital H, affordable housing. So that's one way of maybe helping to make some distinctions.
Councilmember Rogers.
I don't know that we ever will have a definition. I mean, this came up at our joint meeting where people are like, what do you mean by affordable housing? And my response back is, what do you mean by affordable housing? For some people, it is that subsidized.
I'm sure that was a very popular answer.
It was a very popular answer. It went over very well. But, you know, I mean, we have an average, the average from our income in Evanston is about $100,000. And if you use the 3-to-1 ratio for that, does that mean that a $400,000 home is not affordable now? Some people use that definition. Some people use the definition of, is it an IHO affordability, which is 60 to 80%. So I mean, I really don't know that we can have a 100% definition of what that means without other context behind it at that particular time we're using that phrase.
I think what staff is posing to council is that you figure out what your definition is, and then we will put it in the comprehensive plan. So and to everyone's point is that, yes, everyone has a different basis for which they use affordable housing. What do you mean by it? What does this plan mean by it? And I think as long as we provide that definition in the body of the text, leading into different chapters, we can solve that problem ourselves.
Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, I mean, this maybe this is a strategic housing plan thing. I just, you know, maybe the reason why subsidized housing is in there is that there are very clear guidelines as to what affordable housing means for subsidized housing and other more formal structured programming. And those are that's certainly an audience that are underserved in Evanston that I think we should call attention to in our comp plan, as well as we'll learn more about what is not attainable through our strategic housing plan. But I think we understand, again, as I said in the last ACDC committee, it's like the lower income you are, the larger the household, the more difficult it is to find something in Evanston, or really anywhere, but certainly in Evanston. And so I don't want to distort affordable housing, because that means something real for the programs who facilitate those programs. Now, attainable, that's not a term, honestly, I hear a lot alongside affordable housing discussions. If and again, what I mean by that is I am in kind of constant communication with places like Reba Place Development, Community Partners for Affordable Housing, HODC. Those organizations, when they say affordable housing, they mean something very specific. Even through our inclusionary housing program, we mean something very specific. I don't want to lose sight of that and just call like everything affordable if you can't find something, no matter what your income is you can't afford in Evanston. I think that would not be a direction I would want to go in.
Obviously, anyone can make a motion if they want. My recommendation would be that we not. I think there's been really, really important points made by everybody in this discussion. I think the word is the phrase. Good point, Aaron. The phrase "affordable housing" is used a lot throughout this document in non always identical ways, and I would just kind of recommend that you guys think about that in light of the discussion that was just had, and also in light of the discussions we're going to continue to have both the rest of the evening and July 30th, and perhaps out of that come out of that with some more universal recommendations. But I don't have the feeling that a kind of a generalized motion would make a lot of sense at this moment. And if no one disagrees with that, then we'll move on to item E, which is, I think, kind of the opposite. Aaron, on item E.
Again, this was something that was based on feedback from several council members. We've also heard it, at least since I've started here as well, that there needs to be more of a feature of the decline of Black residents that we have here in Evanston. That also ties in with point F, talking about income disparity and racial equity in Evanston.
Councilmember Hadakatis, followed by Burns. And you're welcome to discuss items E and F at the same time if that's your inclination.
Yeah, I think E and F, this is language we have to include, I think, especially since, this is an aspirational document, and I feel like we'd be blowing it if we just ignored this. So I think it's really, really important.
Councilmember Burns, followed by Nusma.
Yeah, I think I just want to make sure we tend to use these kind of catch-all terms to describe experiences that are in many cases very unique, especially in Evanston, and I don't want to lose sight of this. As I always tell people, this is not, I think, us being over specific. If you look at the data, it clearly shows that there's something different and unique happening to African Americans in this community, unlike anyone else. And I think to not mention that would be a mistake.
Councilmember Nusma.
Yeah, I certainly think we need to give both of these topics their due. And one of the things that makes Evanston Evanston is the historically thriving Black community in town. And if we're not acknowledging that community is under threat, we're not doing our job here.
Is there a motion on either item E or items E and F? Councilmember Davis?
Are we also planning to include what we think the causes are for the decline in the number of Black residents? Or are we just going to just do a nod to it and just acknowledge it? Like, what's the question?
I mean, I hear the question as should it be, I think Councilmember Burns said it really eloquently, so I'm going to say it really ineloquently now. I think that there is a lot of sloppy language in this country and in this town that's sort of under the broad umbrella of socioeconomic status blurs a distinction. And the truth of the matter, if you look at the census data, is that there is a different trajectory for Black Evanston than for other racial or ethnic communities. And one way you see it is just the decades-long decline in the Black population. And so what I see the question is like, should that be called out and named specifically as a discrete phenomenon? And I don't know that we have the capacity to add to the kind of ongoing discussion in town in terms of describing causes of that. But I think the question is, like, do we name that as a specific thing and call it out separately? And what I'm hearing, which I strongly agree with, is yes, because it is a separate thing, that we're just not describing Evanston correctly if we sort of blur it.
Okay.
Councilmember Rogers.
I think that it does need to be included, and I think one of the things that would be very important is to look at our built environment and how that has impacted that, since this is the comp plan, and sort of look at, redlining issues, housing stock in traditional Black neighborhoods, and identifying those. So not really going into the causes of it necessarily as much, but how has the built environment that we've created affected that, and how do we slow, prevent, increase that return as part of that, if there's anything we can do through, again, the built environment sort of thing. This isn't going to solve racial issues in the city of Evanston off this one document, but I think we need to focus in on how our built environment has really exacerbated that potentially.
Well, I just think, let me just say even more explicitly something that's like in the background here. Evanston has certainly become more racially integrated, but what that means is that historically Black neighborhoods have integrated much faster than historically white neighborhoods. Right. So that's a thing that needs to be said, and I would argue named as a problem. Councilmember Hadakatis.
And I think one of the things I think I included in my comments that probably overly prescriptive that should be that I would like to see something in the strategic housing plan is I've heard that home ownership for, folks in the Black community is much harder to achieve nowadays than it has been. And so I think it would be, how do you, create programs that foster first-time home ownership? Because, like all these, historic redlining, people don't have generational wealth to pass along. And so I think we know a lot of the causes, but I think it's important that when we go forward, to be looking at, things that do prevent displacement and adding those into the strategic housing plan, because I think it's awfully important.
Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, I was going to say, definitely acknowledgement. I just want to make sure the data gets in there too. Like I said, it's very obvious if you just look at the census data, that the exodus of African Americans in this town is very different and distinct to any other group in the town. I think that alone does what this would need to do for me. I think in the strategic housing plan, maybe we can investigate the causes of them, but I think just getting the census data there and making that distinction for me is all I would want in the comp plan.
So I would entertain a motion on item E or E and F.
I would move, including language that highlights the decline in the number of Black residents, and also language that highlights income disparity and racial equity.
Seconded.
Councilmember Rogers moves that the comprehensive plan include language that highlights the decline of the number of Black residents, the income disparity, and racial equity. Councilmember Davis seconds. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the recommendation is adopted. And I think items G and H, which are, I think, italicized because that's the universal typeface for who could argue, could probably take a pretty quick motion.
I would move that we streamline the document into one voice and address any Scrivener's errors and structure for maximum readability.
Second.
Councilmember Rogers moves that the item be streamlined to be in one voice, that all Scrivener's errors be removed, that the word Scrivener be included, and that the wording is adjusted to maximize readability. Councilmember, I think Burns it was, is that right? Seconded. All those in favor shall signify by saying.
I have a quick little.
Sorry, Councilmember Rogers.
Also, I would look through for any language that may be biased, leaning one way or the other. There's some words that, or some phrases that kind of like, we want to make sure that everybody in the public, no matter which side they're on, is kind of viewed as equal. And so there's some language about, there was something in there about zoning transparency. People spoke in favor of zoning transparency and simplifying the zoning code, and others spoke against it. And I think we need to be kind of.
I'm going to stop you right there for one reason. That's chapter 2. That's what we heard. That was something that was largely wordsmithed, if you will, for lack of a better word, by the Land Use Commission in an effort to offer common ground and in an effort to represent both of those sides. Throughout the rest of the document, though, that will be charged by your policy decisions. So chapter 2 is actually coming up. So this is where the council will have the opportunity to discuss the language you are referencing. So I would just ask that we have that discussion with chapter 2.
All right, it kind of goes throughout the document, though. So it's not just there. So I'm going to put it in here as just kind of keep a watchful eye out on it as we move through.
Councilmember Burns?
So is there a motion on the floor? I forgot.
There sure is.
All right, I got a quick question after that, but we can go to it first.
All right, this is a motion basically to accept items G and H. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Councilmember Burns.
I know I put into my Google Doc that to add demographic information to each neighborhood section. Are we going to talk about that later? Did we already accept that in consent? I can't remember. That's consent?
It's listed in. Sorry, just lost where that was. We are including that. That was something that's not even up for discussion just because it was included.
So we're good on that?
Correct.
To be included. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Since we're getting to the more substantive part, and also we've kind of gotten through the definitions, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Councilmember Davis moves to adjourn. Is there a second?
I will second for the point of, there isn't really discussion on adjournment.
I think an adjournment motion is non-debatable. Is that right?
I guess I'll.
The great feature of the current rules is that because they're in alphabetical order, they start with adjournment.
I know. I noticed that.
That's the only part I remember, is that adjournment motions are not debatable.
I guess my question is, are we losing Councilmember Davis at this time? And if so, that takes us even further down in how many council members are here to discuss.
Guess I will be leaving.
So in that case, I will second adjournment.
Councilmember Davis moves that we adjourn. Councilmember Rogers seconds. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma. Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
With 6 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries. The July 21st special meeting of the Evanston City Council stands adjourned, and we'll see you all on July 30th. Do we have a time? I think the city manager said 3 a.m. Let's say, I guess let's just actually just decide now. Is 5 okay? 5 p.m. on July 30th. Yeah.